Well, hello, motherfuckers. It is Jaffe. It is good to see you. Let me turn this nonsense down. Let me turn it down. God damn it. God damn it. Allow me to live in the world the way I need to live in the goddamn world. No, you have to listen to our music. It has to be cool, man. And you're not cool. I know. That's okay, though. The nice thing about it is I've watched my kids grow up, and there was absolutely a phase where they felt cool was a currency. And it's nice to see them sort of growing out of that and not really giving a fuck. Not really giving a fuck about being cool. But, you know, there's still adults who put currency in being cool. Can you believe that shit? Here's the point. We're doing a spur-of-the-moment stream. It's good to see everybody on an early Saturday morning. At least, well, it's kind of early. It's early for me. I was up till 3 in the morning playing Returnal, so it's kind of a 9 a.m. for me. We are just going to give you a real heads up before I bring in a special guest, and then I'll take all your calls and we'll talk about this subject. It's a single subject stream today, all about Colin Moriarty. I'll get to that in just a second. Tonight, I'm not sure the time yet. We are doing popcorn and PlayStation. Doesn't really mean PlayStation. We're doing popcorn and multiplayer games with members of the stream. Obviously, if there are no members at the moment who want to play at the time, I'll bring in non-members, but we're going to be playing for sure Second Extinction, which is on Xbox Game Pass, and then I'm open to suggestions at that point. So we can play it on PlayStation, Xbox, Game Pass, PC. I definitely will have some suggestions, but that's going to be tonight. My guess is we're going to start around 5 or 6 California time. But I'm not entirely sure yet. So that is going on tonight. Keep an eye out if you care about such malarkey at David Scott Jaffe or over on the Gavin Games Discord, and I will give you all the news you need. Now, let's get into it. Again, as always, the call-in show channels are open. I am going to first begin talking with the reason we're having this chat. Let me set it all up. And then I'm going to bring in Darth Gundam. Now, Darth is the guy who made me say, fuck it, I want to talk live about this. But when I woke up this morning, I saw a tweet from Colin. This is an impromptu stream, so I don't have it up that you can see. But the gist of it was, I guess there was a journalist who writes for Polygon, and he was kind of taking the piss. He was telling people, if you follow Colin Moriarty, pretty much, not even pretty much, literally unfollow me, or I will block you, or I will unfollow you, or something. He wants nothing to do with you if you follow Colin Moriarty. And I was like, what happened? What did Colin do? You know, I'm sure he did nothing, but he rarely does, if ever, that I've seen, but we'll talk about that. And it turns out, I guess there was a review of Returnal, which is quite phenomenal. And even though it's hard as fuck, and I will never finish it. I love it so far. And in it, I guess there was a journalist that took issue with the frequency of the word xeno, as in, aliens. And obviously, I mean, when I was a kid in the arcade, I think there was a game called Xenobots and Xenophobia that was all about fighting literal aliens from outer space. But now this reviewer says, oh, it sucks, you can't really escape the word xeno in Returnal, and it sucks that you can't, even in this day and age where the Democrats were supposed to be pro-immigration and pro-anti-racism and aliens, illegal aliens. And Xenogears too. Xenoblade, right. It sucks when Democrats are supposed to be, so progressive and so liberal, and yet they turn around and they're still being awful to illegal aliens. And I don't like seeing the word Xeno so much in Returnal. Now, the guy has a right to write whatever the fuck he wants, or the woman, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been a woman. But whatever, who gives a shit? That's your opinion. You know, Colin just basically clipped that part of the review and just tweeted out what, right? And I think, I mean, I don't disagree with Colin. I think it's a stupid comment, but I also support people's rights to make stupid comments. I also don't like how... I like a lot that Joe Biden has done. I'm a very progressive guy. I agree with this guy, though, that I'd like to see less not progressive, moves coming out of the Democratic Party when it comes to immigration. But that's a totally separate thing. But Colin was just kind of taking the piss out of like, why in the fuck is this in your Returnal review? That's how I read it. Again, the guy has a right to. There's reviewers who do that. Harry Knowles kind of pioneered that back in the day, I think. He probably wasn't the pioneer, but he was the one who made it famous for my generation, a little younger, where he would write movie reviews and half of them would be about his own personal life and how that movie touched his personal life. And so whatever, right? Well, anyway, I guess a bunch of, journalists came to this writer's defense kind of like fuck Colin Moriarty, as they are wont to do. And Colin was just like, had to release this. He didn't have to, but he released a statement on his page today saying, or on his Twitter today saying, I really hate to do things like this, but when somebody attacks me or slanders me or says shit about me, whether it's punching up, punching down, left or right, that's kind of how I'm going to do it. And I'm down with that, right? Okay. So that is the setup. And then Twitter, I don't want to be dramatic, it didn't explode, but there was a lot of people who followed this stuff that clearly had opinions on it. And my opinion has always been with Colin. I really like Colin. I like his ideas as a journalist, now I guess as a game publisher, as a business owner. He seems like a nice, smart, conscientious guy. I've always enjoyed my interactions with him. I've been on his podcast before. I think we're going to be doing not a podcast together, but like an episode of his, an episode of mine coming up relatively soon. And so I got nothing. Do I agree with everything he says? Of course not. But like I said in my tweet, I don't agree with everything my kids say. But it doesn't mean I'm going to throw the guy out on the streets like a lot of people seem to want to do. So that's the context. Darth Gundam writes me, and because I'm always like, why do people hate Colin so much? What the fuck did he do? And I'm going to save that for Darth Gundam, because he tweeted me the one thing that continually gets tweeted to me about the reason people don't like Colin. And it wasn't the joke about, if you don't know Colin, he was at IGN forever. Him and Greg Miller broke off to start Kind of Funny. On Day Without a Woman Day, he released like a kind of an Archie Bunker 70s, kind of sexist joke about, peace and quiet, it's a day without a woman. Is it, do I think it was a little sexist? Sure. Do I think it was harmless? Yeah. And even if it wasn't, okay, I don't think the guy has no value just because somebody makes a joke that I don't like. Even though I did not like it, I was just like, whatever, but I'm not a woman. If women say it was offensive, why would I not believe them? But that said, people can make jokes, people can step in it, people can make mistakes, and I don't even know if I would call that one a mistake, okay? But that's not what most people say these days is Colin's problem. Now, with all that preamble, and I apologize for hogging the mic, I'm going to bring in my good friend Darth Gundam, who I just met. Darth, are you there?
Yes, indeed. Hello.
How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am very good, and I appreciate you calling. I know you said that maybe this is not your most your biggest comfort zone, but hopefully we can make you feel comfortable. I always like talking to people who I don't agree with because it allows me to come to a position maybe that I don't currently have. So talk to me about what your issue is with Colin Moriarty.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess with Colin, the thing comes down to, typically it comes back to the a day without women thing. That's the big thing that everyone believes is the issue.
Okay.
But then once we get past that, it breaks down into a couple more things. So first, it's the misogyny thing. And that gets explained away as it was just a joke. It was in poor taste. It was off color. He was accountable for that.
Okay.
It moves on past that, and then it becomes about the comments he makes about trans people.
What are those comments? Because I haven't seen those.
Yeah, so Far be it, I don't want to speak for that. Sorry, my little one is trying to talk too here.
Hello, baby. Put the baby on. I want to talk to the baby. I miss my babies. My babies are 17 and 15. They don't make those sounds anymore. All right, go ahead.
She's all buckled up in her chair. She's a little bit more entertaining than me, but we may get her on here soon.
Sounds good. Okay, so what happened? What did he say about trans folks?
So I definitely don't want to speak for that community, but from what I understand the most, is he had a series of episodes where he would platform people that were critical of that position or of their identity, and he would then add on to it into a way to the perception is that people want to transition in order to gain an advantage, or the big concern is we have to stop these people from transitioning to to dominate in sports and things like that, when people obviously who are trans are trying to be comfortable in their own identity for the most part. If there's any kind of malcontent, it's rare or it's extreme. That's not necessarily how we want to view people just for being trans.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. So he had some people on some of his podcasts that advocated or just didn't seem like fans of the trans community. That is correct, you're saying, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the exact tweets and such, I'm sure I can find here very soon. But that was a big one where it got explained away as well. He's just putting out his opinion. We have to worry about these things, yada yada yada.
Well, wait. I know, but I want to be clear. Are you saying there's two problems? Problem number one is Colin put people on his show that did not support LGBT folks in terms of how LGBT folks want to be supported. That's the first thing you're saying is a fact, correct? He gave those people a place to speak.
Yeah, platforming TERFs was a major criticism of his. That is one issue.
So the second part about the trans thing is not just that, but he also then, after he did that, he went on to indicate that he supported those folks' positions, correct?
Making comments lending themselves towards that, yes. So if not outright saying that, I don't believe he ever outright said, I'm against trans people or anything like that, but saying that it is about getting some sort of advantage in their personal lives and things like that, rather than it being something about their identity, or their identity.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. And then what's the third thing? You said there were three things, right?
Yes. And then, of course, the racism thing. So obviously, this is something that I brought up specifically because it's the one I know the most about. But invoking the model minority myth in order to make the implication that racism doesn't exist in any context, really, but in the context that he's saying. So obviously the first tweet where he says that the way to blow up the white supremacy and racism bit, as if it's a bit and not our reality, is to mention that Asian Americans do or are successful in whatever stat line.
Okay, so I guess here's where I get a little confused, because the real issue is not, in my opinion, now you may disagree, Darth, or should I call you by your birth name or your Sith name? Darth, I'll call you Darth.
You can call me Darth or Rick or however.
I'll call you Darth because it's fun. It's like you're the Lord of the Fifth.
I'm used to that.
Okay, so let's assume, and I would have to see the trans comments, but let's assume the three things that you've listed. He platformed anti-trans folks. He then agreed with some of the things the anti-trans folks are saying, and he feels that racism and white supremacy is not a thing, right? So so here's why I'm confused, right? I first of all consider myself a feminist. even though I know that definition has different meanings to people these days, but I do. I have a trans son. I have gay members in my family. I support the LGBT community in any and every way that a straight cis man can. And when they have deemed it appropriate, I will be honored that they would call me an ally, but that's not for me to say. In regards to racism, I made a video a couple of weeks ago where I literally said, and I still get shit for it, where I do think critical race theory is correct. I think you cannot be a white or white passing person in America without being racist. I don't think most people are, I don't think they don't like black people. I think there are certainly people who don't, and that's tragic just because of someone's skin color. But I absolutely think that the people who push back on the critical race theory, which I very much think is provable, are people who just think that they're too thin-skinned and they think that they are being called out. And it's like, dude, it's not the fact that you are a bad person. It's the fact that we are a country built on the bones of genocide and slavery, and so many institutions that still are powerful in this country are baked in, aspects of them have baked into them the racist DNA of the founding of the country. And so I am absolutely, as progressive as I guess a cis white guy can be. And I don't agree necessarily if what you're saying, Colin said, but I don't hate the guy for it. I don't want him to, not have a platform for it. I mean, that's where I get confused, right? Colin is a smart guy. He seems like a kind guy. Let's assume for the moment he doesn't believe that all white Americans, passing white Americans, are racist. Let's say he doesn't believe that trans people, which is a ridiculous concept, the idea that trans people are trans because they want to get ahead in the world. Trust me. Like I said, I've watched my son go through it. I've watched his friends. I've watched friends of mine go through it. You don't choose that. Right? This society does not embrace that. It's why would you make, it's like, I think I want to get ahead in women's, I'm so desperate to be good at high school sports. I think what I will do is come out as a trans person so I can win against girls at track and field. I mean, think about it, right? So I don't believe that theory. But ultimately though, why can't someone have a view that we disagree with and we still appreciate the aspects of them that are not views we don't believe in? Why is that the why is that the knee jerk?
Right, and I understand that as well. I don't believe that it's this person doesn't have value certainly because they believe these things that we disagree with or anything like that. But some of this stuff isn't. It isn't a matter of just disagreeing with an opinion.
Okay.
A lot of this stuff may be political for someone it doesn't affect day to day, but when your identity is the one that is put into this opinion, or you're being phrased as lesser than, or that your struggle doesn't exist or is a bit, not only do you want for that person not to have the platform to spread something that damaging, because there are many, many other people deserving who don't have those same views, who are just as talented,
right?
Who can have that same platform. It becomes a systemic issue, the way that racism is, the way that white supremacy is, when we, our allies and us, when we allow the people who believe these things to keep their platforms and have one of the loudest voices in the room to spread that. When we don't, when we can just say, "Hey, we disagree," but you should be free to, not free, but you should be able to say that to my followers. You should be able to say that to whoever, you should be able to make money doing this. You should be able to have that platform that you had.
Right. So, okay. So here's the challenge I have with this. So I'm not, it is a, let's be very clear, in my position, it is the knee jerk argument. And you've seen this, like there was a movie recently that came out, a documentary called No Safe Spaces with Prager and Adam Carolla. And on the surface, my knee jerk is to agree with it. And it's really interesting to me. So they're basically saying, yes, we disagree with a lot of this hateful shit, but ultimately in America, the whole point of freedom of speech is that you should have a right to express it. And that's a great way to bring morons out of the light or out of the dark into the light, to expose them as people maybe you don't want to associate with. So there's very much this battle in my brain, right? There's this First Amendment battle in my brain that says we should give everyone, not that we even, the Constitution gives everyone, but we should defend everyone's right to express their views in a lot of ways, especially the views that we find problematic. But at the same time, I'm aware enough to know that position and that defense is also coming from a place of white privilege. It's easy for me to say that, of course, yes, what you're saying, Darth, is correct, but First Amendment has to trump everything. And you're like, okay, motherfucker, but as long as it trumps everything, we're going to continue to have racism and problems and hate and George Floyd's and all this, because there is a genuine correct argument to be made that as this stuff gets out there and amplified and spread, it's toxic and it's affecting the culture. So I think both of those things are right, but I don't know at that point. So that's why I think discussions are important right now, because I don't think you would say, although some would, by the way. My ex-wife and I are incredibly friends. She's my best friend in the world, and we talk about this shit all the time. And she literally the other night said to me, I asked her point blank, I said, okay, so would you basically amend the First Amendment so that there wasn't as much freedom of speech if it meant that in 5 to 10 years, racism and xenophobia and transphobia and all that and homophobia would improve, and in 10 years we could revisit it? And she said, yeah, I would. Right? So there are people who genuinely think people should legally not be allowed to express themselves because of the harm it does to the country. You could almost argue that it's a way of looking at the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court said free speech is free as long as you don't incite violence. So are you in that camp? Are you saying that when you say deplatform, you would say that Colin and people who express views that let's say the right people or people who vote on it or whatever, which I think is terribly dangerous, but those people should not be legally allowed to express their views?
Far from it. I actually believe I'm on the same page with you with that. I actually think that all of the cancelings and the things that like the Adam Carollas are afraid of is actually just the First Amendment at work. They're accountable for what they say. And the market, the social media, the people who are hearing these things are moving accordingly.
Okay, right. Okay, so you're not saying when you say deplatform, you don't think necessarily that Patreon should kick Colin off the platform, or you think they should, but you don't think the government should take away his right to express himself.
Well, even maybe not Patreon for sure. I think that's something where if you put your platform out there, people should be able to react to it however they see fit.
Okay.
However, I do believe that it is the market working as designed and free speech working as designed to go, okay, this person has been a bigot in the way of misogyny, or they've received criticism for that. They've been a bigot in the way of being anti-trans or platforming anti-trans people. They receive criticism, valid criticism for that. Also racism.
Okay.
How many times, how many ways can one be a bigot before before the market responds in a way, or before the listener has a duty to go, hey, me supporting this platform is supporting getting those views out.
Right. The only interesting part about that though is I mean, I let's just say I understand the dilemma, and if a gun was put to my head, I would probably still side on the side of free speech, and I would side on the side of let's put all the ideas out there. even / especially the awful ones, so we can kind of pick and choose. You know, it's kind of like when you come home on Halloween night as a kid or even an adult with all your candy, and you're like, okay, I'll take the Kit Kat, the Snicker, this weird looking thing is cool, but all this kind of fucking weird candy from the 99-cent store that looks like 2 years old, I'm not going to eat. But at least you get to dump it on the table and say, I want that, I want that, I don't want that.
Right.
So I'm kind of a fan if I had to choose. But yeah, I don't know, man. I absolutely hear you. I know it's a real problem. I just don't think that if you're deplatforming people, okay, so let me okay, here's what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought for a minute because I started thinking about candy. I'm sorry, this is how I work.
Oh no, I'm the same way.
Yeah. So what I was wondering about is, so if the end goal then is to have a more just society, then, and if that really was the end goal, can you see my confusion though with going, well, if your end goal is a just society, and you know that when you tend to deplatform someone or push back on someone like people did with Colin, and I don't know the whole story about Kind of Funny, but the narrative is, and it may not be true, that Greg and those guys who I still like pushed Colin out because they felt he was bad for the brand. Well, in doing so, they're doing exactly what you're saying. They're letting the free market respond and give that person consequences. But in doing so, Colin is now the most popular PlayStation podcast on the planet. He has more Patreon members than any other geek podcast. The guy, I mean, I'm not going to get into his finances, but I'm just going to talk publicly. The guy has over 9,000 Patreon members a month, which literally is at least $2. I think his lowest tier is $2 or something like that. The guy's pulling in cash. So wouldn't you think that if the goal was to not give this guy success and amplification, this was a total failure on the part of trying to deplatform Colin? Because all it did was make him more successful.
I don't believe so. But for me speaking personally, I believe that is a natural reflection of systemic racism. The way that it works typically is
that kid's like, I want to say something, Papa. You're wrong.
She's passionate about it. Yeah,
good for her.
Wants to be in and on the conversation for sure. The way I see it is a pendulum. The pendulum is. Allow me to pick her up real quick.
Yeah, take your time, man. Are you there?
Okay, I apologize.
All right, no worries.
So from my perspective, what we've seen is when progressive things happen, politically or otherwise, when combating systemic racism, we had 8 years of Obama. Mm-hmm. The pendulum swings the other way. 2016 happened. We had white supremacists more empowered than ever. We had the president we had. We had the issues we had. The same thing happens with media and all other every other facet of society that has been built by white supremacy. Mm-hmm. A good example would be Joe Rogan. Okay, he just got his $100 million, his Spotify deal, and he's pushing anti-vax, theories with the money he's being given to do that.
Right. I mean, he did walk that back the very next day, but sure.
Yes, he did. But,
I mean, Rogan pushes stuff I don't agree with either. I don't agree with Rogan's take on trans folks.
Just like with Colin, the issue becomes how many times can you have a Milo on there? How many times can you have a Peterson on there? Before the issue becomes, hey, maybe the listeners that are supporting this have to be able to have the discussion amongst themselves that when you're supporting something or these views being out or these views, someone spouting these views, you're kind of accountable as well. You're standing next to someone who is doing this, not in disagreement, but allowing the rhetoric to spread.
Okay,
so there are plenty of people who are more talented, there are people who can do that job better.
Well, okay, but okay, that's a loaded statement because the answer is maybe there aren't, right? I mean, are there people that are more aligned with your values? Of course. There was a radio station back, I think in the 80s or 90s, called Air America, and it was trying to counter the right-wing political talk radio explosion that was led by Rush Limbaugh. And that was where, what's the guy's, he became a senator, then just got fired, was on SNL, whatever that guy's, Franken, great guy, I like Franken. But, you know, that radio station crashed and burned because ultimately, yeah, they were talented, but they couldn't connect for whatever reason with a liberal or a progressive audience. So there may be people more talented than Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan, for whatever reason, is able to connect with a wide audience. Colin Moriarty, for whatever reason, Greg Miller, for whatever reason, is able to connect with a wide audience. And so, you know, end of the day, they're doing something that these other folks aren't doing, and they're connecting with people in a way that they want to be connected with. And so I guess the question becomes, really, it comes down to, are you saying, like, do you think things would be better if Colin was no longer having a podcast and on Patreon and he just went away? Is that what you would like to see?
I personally would. I think that there would be a lot better of a discourse around this situation without him being there or being the subject. And I believe that there are content makers out there, the Trihexes or the Parises, or like there's so many personalities that can step up and fill that void. And not just, you know, people already in the industry, but maybe that pushes people to search, to look outside of how they typically look, for more personalities. Because, as you mentioned with the hip hop gamer thing, there are plenty of people in the industry who are holding these views and who are racist and things like that. But it only takes one person to go, well, I've never seen that happen, for them to keep their position and block the opportunity from someone else who maybe isn't as doesn't have the same opportunities.
But do you know? Would you like me to show you that as much as I think look, man, I think your heart, not only is your heart in the right place, but saying your heart in the right place is a fucking condescending thing for a white guy to say to a black guy. And I think you're black because your avatar is black. I'm assuming you're a black guy. I don't know if that's true.
I am.
Okay. Not your avatar on Discord, but the Darth avatar.
Yeah, that's a picture of me.
Okay. So let me show you why, though, that is, I think your heart's in the right place, but it confuses me a little bit. Would be, let me show you this picture. Because I was going to make a video about this, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to do it. But where did it go? One moment, I'm sorry. Oh, it's under media. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up on my screen. Are you looking at your screen right now?
I am now. Let's see. I don't believe it's showing.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, so this is Patrick Klepek, he's a game journalist. He's been able to keep his job. He's got Rape Time Bitch here.
Right.
He's got two black guys saying ready for a hate crime here. He's got raping the sign like it deserved it here. He's got clearly having sex with a woman who is surprised that his penis is going into her, it looks like her butthole. And this guy, not that guy, he's a guy I had on the show the other day, or I was on his show. They're keeping their jobs. Right. So do you think that he should be deplatformed?
I believe that, to me, I'm a strict accountability person. So I believe that there shouldn't be as many chances. I don't believe that people shouldn't have second chances or anything like that. Nothing unreasonable. But I do believe that in the cases of people like that and like Colin, there should be a certain point where we go, hey, maybe we should be looking elsewhere, and our repeated allowance of them to do and say these things reflects on us. Right.
And then it gets in. And by the way, I will bring calls in just a second, and I will read super chats. I'm not ignoring you guys. But then you get into that really tough question, which is, I think it maybe literally comes down to, do you value freedom of speech, more than you value the hope of removing or the hope of getting to a truly equal country? Like, which do you value more? Because it does seem like in order to go with your perspective, you have to choose a side, right? Because the only other option, hopefully, is education, which is if you really think Joe Rogan is dangerous and you think people who listen to Joe Rogan and believe Joe Rogan or Colin Moriarty are morons, then the only real solve is to say, let's put more money into public education of media literacy. So people can listen to, say, Joe Rogan or Alex Jones and know that the guy is spewing. Not Joe Rogan, but in Alex Jones's case for sure, he's spewing
right.
He's spewing utter horseshit, right? Because I mean, what are your options, right? Okay, but hey, Darth, listen, man, I'm gonna bring in somebody. I don't know if you want to stay on and take calls with me, or if that was all you had to say. I will tell you this: I don't agree. I agree with your fight as much as a white guy can be in the fight. I am there in the fight with you. I don't know if I agree with the way to fight it that you're going to say it should be fought. And I don't also know if I don't know what damage the First Amendment should take, if any, to allow us to become a more equal country. It's an important discussion to have.
Absolutely. If I could answer quickly, I think I just got a few thoughts on it, and I can I can stay on and answer if people have questions for me or anything as well.
All right, let me go ahead and give me your final answer then for that, and then let's move on.
Okay. So I guess the easiest way, most concise way I can break it down is when we look at bigotry, racism especially, it breaks down into a couple of different things. You mentioned education. There are people who are willingly that way. There are people who are not ignorant to it, who are choosing this form of bigotry. There are people who are ignorant to it in education.
Which form of bigotry? What are you talking about?
Any form. This is how I break down bigotry and especially racism, because that's the thing I'm most familiar with dissecting and breaking down.
Okay.
But people who are outwardly bigots, it either comes from ignorance of the group they are spouting those views towards, or it's chosen and it's willful and malicious. So if it's ignorance, education absolutely helps a ton. The idea that there aren't people out there that could fill those spaces or be media trained and things like that, people are chomping at the bit for this. Ever since YouTube came to popularity, people have been training in their media faces, just in general, society.
Okay.
There are a wide number of people who can fill those gaps. For those who are willful or malicious, it only takes someone saying, I haven't seen this of them, or it is something I just agree to disagree, but they should have that, for them to multiply and for them to get what they want out of the situation.
Okay. All right. I hear what you're saying. I'm struggling with it. Let me bring in Darth. You know what? I'm actually going to let you go just because I think it'll be a clusterfuck. But if you want to, if you continue to listen and you hear something someone says and you want to get back on to rebut it, I'm more than happy to instantly put you back on.
No problem at all. I'll be around. I'm going to hang out with my baby a little bit.
That's nice.
I'll watch it I'll watch afterwards. If there is something that anyone has questions for me directly, feel free to @ me. I'm in the Discord or on Twitter. I'm constantly available to discuss stuff.
Enjoy the time with the baby, man. I know people tell you, and it's absolutely true. It goes bizarrely fast. It's surreal. So enjoy it.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you soon, bud.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I'm going to bring in some calls. Let me get the super chat real quick. This is from Fuzzy. I appreciate it. He says, just wanted to say your stream is as good as it gets. You goddamn right, Fuzzy. I love watching your game content and comment on gaming, but the commentary on wider issues is welcome as well. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your generosity. Okay, seriously, I'm not brushing it off. It's very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words as well. This is Sir Little Bark. Hello, Sir Little Bark. What's up, baby? What's going on? Go. Sir Little. He's gone the way of the dodo. Sir Little Bark.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
What's going on?
I thought I was going to be talking to the guy, but so I guess some quick facts.
Yeah.
One, with regards to Colin's racism, his girlfriend is black. So
Whose girlfriend is black?
Colin's girlfriend is black.
Okay, but that doesn't mean he can't be racist, right?
I'm not saying that means he can't be racist.
Okay. I didn't hear the first part of your comment. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Also, one of his writers, or previous writers, also was trans. So I don't believe he hates trans people either.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing and I think I can maybe speak for some of the chat, is the guy was speaking about a lot of hearsay and wasn't providing any sort of proof that even he had seen what Colin had said or done or the otherwise.
I didn't see the trans stuff. He did send me earlier the thing about Asian Americans, where Colin basically said, I'm paraphrasing, but the gist of it was, would you like, if you want to know how there is no white supremacy or racism in America, how do you explain that Asian Americans make more cash, are more educated, blah, blah, blah. So that is a real tweet that's out there. Whether or not you find that offensive or not is your mileage may vary, but the trans stuff I haven't really seen.
Right. I think the biggest thing throughout this entire conversation is that I feel like the lingering question is he seems to have this idea that his ideas maybe, or those ideas that he shares with everyone, are the better ideas. And I guess my question would be, why does he think those ideas are going to lose in the battle of ideas, as they call it?
Because I don't know why he does. I can tell you why I think those ideas are facing an uphill battle.
Sure.
It's because we live in a capitalist society that should be more regulated than it isn't. And so ultimately, a lot of choices get made that aren't in the public good, that aren't for the public good, so people can continue to get wealthy. And that affects education, that affects media, that affects advertising. And in that, it becomes very difficult for us to educate people in a way that will make a country full of very critical thinkers. And so you've got a lot of people who are literally, down here in San Diego the other day, a bunch of people busted into Trader Joe's with signs and megaphones and yelling at people wearing masks, saying that Tucker Carlson says we should confront people who wear masks. It's just like, okay, that's a ridiculous concept. Can we talk about it? But they're just ready to go to war. So the reason I think the better ideas, or at least what I consider the better ideas, don't win out is we haven't educated enough of America to be able to appreciate the nuance of things. And so they only look at things as good, bad, black, white, evil, or not evil. And in that, you've created a wonderfully horrible, stew of the ability for people to just be moronic idiots that are easily manipulated.
But I agree with that somewhat in terms of, I get how that promotes maybe the conflict of ideas, but for example, if someone's college educated, I'm college educated, and they still come to the conclusion where, they like Joe Rogan, I like Colin Moriarty, I can say that for a fact. What does that say, right? It can't be, you can't have the opinion that, okay, well, the people that are listening to Joe Rogan or Colin Moriarty, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but the people that listen to Joe Rogan or Colin Moriarty are uneducated, moronic idiots, when I can say that I am. I mean, you're educated, I'm educated, some of the other people are educated. So the question becomes, okay, now these people are educated, now what's wrong?
Well, no, here's what's wrong. So because what that guy was saying, it's not that he's saying if you listen to, at least I don't think he was saying that if you listen to Joe Rogan, who gives platforms to people like Jordan Peterson, I think Ben Shapiro has been on the show or what have you. It's not that he's saying that if you're educated in media, if you're educated in manipulation, if you're educated in public relations, of course, you and I are able to go, just because I'm hearing it and it's dressed up and it looks professional and it looks like I should believe it, we're able to go, well, that's smoke and mirrors. Listen to what he's saying, right? Well, right. The ironic part is the very reason I think absolute horrible ideas, people like Milo Yiannopoulos and whatnot, and Jordan Peterson, although I don't think all of his ideas are horrible, but he's got some dumb ones, but that I think everyone should be able to speak on college campuses. and not be canceled is because the more the younger generation can learn to identify when a attractive, well-spoken, flashy, appealing person is spouting shit ideas that just feel good, but when you really break them down, they're really bad, the better we're going to be as a country. But now we've entered into this phase where we're trying to tell people we don't want to even hear your ideas. So if you can't hear these ideas like you and I have, and we're able to discern someone who's a slick salesman with bad ideas, a lot of people can't. And that's, I think, what he's saying. He's like, look, if you watch Joe Rogan and you don't know any better, you're going to think that the people he has on his show are saying shit that's valid.
Well, then how do you get to the root of that? Because, I mean, of course, some people are going to say, well, that's parenting. You need people with better parenting. Some people are going to say the education system.
Well, it's a lot. At some point,
there's a fundamental. It's multifaceted, of course.
Yes, there's a fundamental problem. I mean, we have everything from educational problems to capitalism problems, to just, every economic problems that we have no social safety nets in America. So much of this comes from a place of scarcity or a perception of scarcity that I'm not going to have enough for me and my family. And so that's really what drives a lot of this tribalism. But ultimately, I don't know how to get to the bottom of it. I have always felt that the best way to get to the bottom of it is the more sunlight you let in, the better chance we have to sort of eradicate the stupidity. And the more you kind of take the stuff that you have a problem with and shove it in the closet, historically, we have seen that doesn't go so well. So I don't have a solve. I just know that right now it seems that the more we can allow people to debate and discuss and be free to express ideas, good and bad, the better chance we have of converting more people into logical, critical thinking humans.
In total agreement with you.
Yeah. But it's tough. It's tough. I mean, and I'm a white guy saying it's tough. I don't. Are you a black guy or a white guy? Are you there? Did I lose you?
Yep, still here.
Are you a black guy? Are you a black guy or a white guy?
I'm black.
Let me ask you this question, because I've had people on my show who are black folks, and I've asked them point blank, because I'm like, hey, as a black person in America, specifically a black man in America, I was just kind of like going, okay, so is it true that, you raise your kids to be cautious of the cops, that if you're driving, you're always a little more nervous if a cop is following you? And I've had some black men call in and say, dude, that's so not the case. If you don't do anything wrong, you're fine, blah, blah, blah. And then I've had some black folks who say, dude, I had Hip Hop Gamer on the other day, and he was just like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, I don't even drive anymore because I'm worried about cops. I mean, what is your take on that?
On the opposite end of that, I've definitely gotten those comments, be worried around crowds of white people, all that stuff.
No, not white people, just cops specifically, just so we can keep it focused on that.
Cops? Oh, just cops specifically? Yeah. No, I've never been worried about the cops. But, I mean, I guess ultimately the way I've always come down to it is I treat it at the individual level. I'm sure there are bad cops. But at the end of the day, for me personally, I'm going to deal with you as you are, and if you give me a reason not to like you or distrust you, give me the reason. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to treat you decent. I can hope that you treat me decent. If you don't, then the action is on me to make up my mind about that and do something else with my life besides deal with the person.
Gotcha. So. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to bring in some other callers, but I sure do appreciate it, man. Thank you for waiting and calling. I appreciate your perspective.
Problem. Thank you.
All right, man. Anytime. All right. Let me bring in first. Let me get some of the chat real quick. That's talking about the idea that somebody in the chat, I forget who it was, says, "Oh, Jaffe's doing that thing." Oh, here it is. Brett, the illustrator, says David is part of the group where he has to state he's white and his opinion isn't important, which is wrong. If I didn't think my opinion was not important, I wouldn't be doing a stream, would I? But what I'm saying is, I know enough, or I think I know enough, to be able to comfortably say that, again, if you present as white in America, you benefit from racism. You are racist, okay? And in that, I would be a moron to try to speak to a black man's experience in this country with any kind of authority. So I'll tell you what I think as a white guy, but what kind of a moron who is, it would be like you trying to tell me about crunch in video games. Well, I've lived it. You probably haven't. And so I will appreciate your perspective, but don't act like you've earned the same seat at the table that I have. That's why I preface it sometimes with that. Okay, let me bring in, this is Stephen P., by the way. Stephen P., thank you so much for joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. It is kind, it is generous. Love having you here. We're doing Pot and PlayStation tonight, where we're doing video games, multiplayer games with members on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. It's going to be hootenanny. I hope you'll join us. Thank you for your generosity and support. This is Tripster60 is calling in all the way from the plains of Nebraska. I don't know how they get reception out there, but he's found a spot, and he's calling in from the cornfields. What's up, Tripster?
David, just here to talk to you about this discussion about freedom of speech. I didn't really get to catch much of your discussion beforehand with other persons, but I did see the first person.
Okay, let's go. What you got?
All right. In my position, I tend to think that it's actually kind of dangerous to limit other people's speech, especially if you disagree with it, because it sets a precedent that is, I think, disturbing for a republic to have. And I'll explain exactly why I think that. When you have a nation that is built on freedom of speech and exchange of ideas, if you limit those exchange of ideas because you disagree with them, you're basically setting the precedent that if you pressure other people to agree with you, then you can use mob rule. And I think mob rule is kind of a dangerous precedent, is that, especially thinking about how it's been used across other different demographics throughout history. For instance, I'm a black person. Mm-hmm. There will be white demagogues, right, who would try to censor black ideologues, right? Whether it be poetry, writers, singers, etc. And back then it wasn't right when the mob rule was used to cancel those people. Likewise, I don't think it's right to pressure other people today to limit speech that you disagree with. I think if you disagree with someone's speech, it's fine to say, hey, I don't think what this person said is correct, or I don't agree with it. It may be hateful. And I don't sponsor it. I don't agree with it. And you shouldn't agree with it either. But I wouldn't try to deplatform them. I wouldn't try to censor them. I wouldn't try to cancel them. I would just not pay much attention to them. I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't watch their content. I wouldn't give them my money. I would just go where I'm wanted.
Okay.
And the thing about this is, you can talk out about someone, but you shouldn't try to pressure other people to come to your position. That's something I vehemently believe is kind of dangerous about the entire cancel culture, is the pressuring of other people to come to a certain
what is pressuring? I mean, pressuring is discussion?
No, in a way, it's actually like, I go to Ohio State University.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, at Ohio State University, what they do in college campuses these days is, if you state a political opinion that is considered not inclusive enough, you can get ridden up in your own dorm.
Right.
That's punishment.
I think it's moronic. But here's my question then. Okay.
Okay.
What you're saying, I have always agreed with intellectually. But what has been made clear to me, because in whenever I would hear people say, no, this person should be fired for having this opinion or expressing this opinion, I don't want this college professor. There in that movie, No Safe Spaces, there was a story about a college professor at Yale who pushed back on the Yale college, I don't know, not law, but sort of policy to say that Halloween costumes cannot be culturally appropriated. And the college professor said, these are fucking grown adults and they're paying a lot of money to come here. We should allow them to determine whatever fucking Halloween costume they want to wear. And I don't know if he was fired, but you had students saying that he should lose his job over that. So my initial knee-jerk in the past was, that's horrible, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I still fundamentally believe that. But I also do hear the side of people who are marginalized, whether you're talking, LGBT folks or Muslim folks or black folks in America, who say, you know what, we've tried the let's just be equal and let's have freedom of speech and all that. But because fundamentally there is so much xenophobia and racism baked into the cake that is America, that really only serves the white culture and even the cis white male culture, because they're the ones that are allowed to continue to spew horseshit that hurts a lot of people. And it's like, yeah, you can have your little conversation about how they're bad and wrong, but things aren't getting any better. So I'm really, I mean, do you understand why I'm torn on that, or you don't think that's...
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though ultimately I come down on the side of free speech, and I would choose that if I had a gun to my head, I still hear what the other side is saying, and they're going, well, what would you have us do? We're still getting murdered.
Here's the problem with that logic. You're going to be focused on what the opposition to you is doing instead of what you yourself can do to improve your own situation. Like if I'm talking about,
how does George Floyd improve his situation? How does a trans kid?
You may not be able to.
Well, how does a trans kid? Okay, go ahead.
You can influence the people around him, and you can actually better their lives by supporting them and not trying to attack other people. Support the people you want to help directly. Don't use vengeance. Use support. That's how you build people up. That's how you get around the cancel culture. That's how you build a good culture that gets rid of these, disingenuous or hateful individuals.
I mean, has that ever worked?
Yes, I think absolutely it has.
Where has that worked historically?
Here in America, if you think about it, long term, we have had difference in opinion all this time. We've had different demographics all this time. It's a majority white country, yes. That is definitely changing now. We're seeing the impact of that politically. But at the same time, right, we were able to have people like Barack Obama come in office and win. You didn't get there by saying, oh, the white people shouldn't even be able to run for office. He got there on his own merit because he happened to have the best message at the best time for him to win. And the people who supported him, who supported black people, actually came out and gave money. They supported him with action. They gave him all the rewards that he was seeking at the time. Mm-hmm. And with it, he was able to build something from that. And think about it this way. When it came to sports, originally the first person on the first black person in a sports team was treated terribly, right? Now you go around and it's kind of customary, These people are actually the highest paid athletes. And a lot of them now are becoming owners of these teams.
Okay, so let me just be clear. Let me cut you off just because I think I get your point. So what you're saying is there is no fast solve to this, but the only solve you've ever seen work, though, is just a continued support of a marketplace of ideas. And yes, there are people who are going to get hurt by it, and it's going to be a rough fucking road, but it beats the alternative. That's your take on it.
Yeah, and I think about it this way. I'll keep it even shorter here. When you have a country like this, you don't want to push vengeance because of bad things being done to you in the past, because vengeance begets further vengeance. So what white people did to blacks in the past is absolutely egregious. I mean, what they did to my race, what they did even until recently, it has such impact financially or sociologically on the entirety of my population, and it continues to this day. That being said, that you guys going around and canceling Colin.
I'm not canceling. I'm going on Colin's fucking show.
The Twitter people going out there, voicing all this stuff and spewing all this hatred about someone who they disagree with, it's not going to improve my life. It's not going to improve any of the people who are offended's lives. It's really just acting out of anger. It's not really well thought out. There's no plan to actually build something from it. At the end of the day, you're tearing other people down and not building the people that you want to support up.
Well, okay, let me ask you specifically about Colin Moriarty then. So, so why do you think these people have such a beef with Colin specifically? I mean, what a lot of people, again, like I showed pictures, Patrick Klepek has done more overt, awful things in his past than Colin has done. And some would argue what Colin has said isn't even really offensive. So why is it that he's got a target on his back, that Pax cancels his show, that all these left journalists come out and attack the guy. What is that? What is that about?
I personally wouldn't know. I don't know as much about the Colin Moriarty situation at all as I do the general situation of America today.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
I can't
Fair
really
enough.
voice much on that. Not informed. Sorry.
Understood. Not a problem. Tripster, thank you, buddy, for calling in. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Anytime, man. Call back. All right, that was good, Sir Tripster. I'm going to let me get a couple super chats, and I'm going to bring in a game journalist, our good friend Ricardo. But first, let me get some of these. This is from Brett Williams. Thank you, sir. He says it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. Boo hoo. Okay. I mean, ultimately, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. What is consequence? You're saying Colin Moriarty saying that he feels that white supremacy in America is not accurate because he's pointing to Asian American success as a piece of evidence, a meaningful piece of evidence as to why white supremacy and white privilege in America is not accurate. You're saying that he deserves that's the consequences he should have gotten. People should dislike and hate him because he has an opinion that you don't agree with. I don't know how that fucking works, man. I don't know how that fucking works because, I mean, you're going to be really lonely. There's a lot of people who say things I don't agree with, but I don't want to fucking throw them, under a goddamn bus. Is that, maybe hit me up, man. I don't mean to, I don't know if that's what he's saying. Brett says, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're fired, son. Fair enough. I think you're a moron, but I'll take your money and your membership, but I do appreciate it, man. Look, I mean, again, you have that right. You have that right, and I support your right to say it. Ricardo, you are a goddamn journalist. Why in the fuck do you think your fellow colleagues fellow colleagues is redundant? Why do you think your colleagues do not like Colin Moriarty?
Well, I don't know Colin that well. I've seen a few of his interviews.
Okay.
But what I know about him the most is that joke he did.
Right.
That I find people getting upset about that. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, let people have a bit of fun, have a bit of spice. My wife does similar jokes when I take my kid out to play soccer with him, and finally some peace and quiet. I mean, so
right,
what?
Right.
Jesus, and the big problem.
I think the challenge, though, Ricardo, and I do understand the the pushback, which is it's like, yeah, I don't think anyone's opposed to having a little fun, and I don't have a problem with Colin's joke. Do I think it's sexist? Sure, but okay, it's whatever. But I'm not saying sexism is whatever. I'm saying that is, he made a joke. It was,
it's just a joke.
Right. But I do think a lot of people would tell you that historically that excuse, oh, I'm just joking, I didn't really mean it. That is such a shield a lot of times for real overt hurtful behavior that I think.
But that's the problem.
Well, I know that's the problem. But I think a lot of people who have been, beaten down by a lot of racism and xenophobia and transphobia are like, you know what? That excuse worked for, in some cases, thousands of years. But we're kind of tired of hearing that your get out of jail free card it was just a joke. I mean, you
need to separate things better.
You do. You need need to be better critical thinkers. That's what it is.
But what's happening is people are making so much noise about little things that what really matters is getting muffled between all the noise. I don't know Colin that well.
Okay.
I intend to actually know him better. But he might have said some terrible things, but I don't know, because what everyone talks about is the joke. Right. And the joke is meaningless. Right. I'll tell you another thing about that journalist that wrote that thing about the xenomorphs.
Right. Okay. Just so we're clear, the whole brouhaha started today or yesterday because Colin called out a journalist who was saying xenomorphs in Returnal, the word xeno is used so often that it's kind of uncomfortable given how the Democrats are just as, in this journalist's mind, problematic when it comes to illegal aliens. Okay, so you're talking about that journalist that Colin was kind of mocking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, for one, I think Colin had that reaction, and I would have similar one.
I think most people. I think most people did. Yes.
Because people just make noise about everything now, and there's a time people overreact. Like I think Colin did, and I would have as well, because we just hear this kind of stuff so many times now that it gets tiring. And also, let's just say, I think that comment the journalist did, it's ridiculous in my opinion. But let's say he has valid opinions to say. Because he did that comment about the xenomorphs, and I won't listen. I just won't care anymore.
Right.
And that's my point. I mean, people. I guess you guys have that story as well in the U.S. The boy that cried wolf.
Right. Well, let me ask you this though. You are in. I always get this mixed up. It's Portugal, correct? Okay. Yeah. I know. I've never been to Portugal. I've never been to Spain. I've never been to Europe. Okay, so. But educate me on this for a moment. The black race, are there a lot of black folks in Portugal?
Yeah, quite a few, because I don't know if you know our past, but I don't. We kind of started slavery. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Exactly. Right. We're also the first ones to end it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Because of that, we have a lot of colonies. And so we have a lot of people from those countries that came in and started living in Portugal.
I understand.
So yeah, we have a lot of black people here.
Okay, I just wanted to. I only asked because sometimes people will call in from other countries, and it turns out they have no Muslim population or very little, or they have no black population, and it's easy to be kumbaya and everything when everybody looks and sounds the same. But in your case, that's not the case. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, all right. I would say Portugal is a bit, in your words, racist, because it's not nearly as bad as the US, but it's a country, like I said, I never met a black journalist. And
right.
I don't see black journalists in the TV, etc.
Right.
So there's a lot of white privilege.
Oh wait,
you
mean you haven't met a black journalist not just in gaming, but you mean in general?
Very few.
Right.
Think a bit more nowadays, but still very few.
Gotcha. All right, Ricardo.
People just need to stop crying wolf all the time, because the message, the things that real matter are getting muffled with all the noise.
Right, like making sure that the next patch for Returnal has an easy mode, correct?
Nah, man, come on.
You go to hell. You go to hell. That thing's too hard. It's great, though.
Put your big boy pants.
I love it. I love it. It's so addictive. All right, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks for calling in.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna get a super chat, then I'm gonna bring in Mr. Brawl. Brett the Illustrator says, Jaffe, look, motherfucker, I face crunch in kitchens, and I wanted to be a game designer. Went to college for 3D art. Life has not got me there yet. Well, life is not going to get you there, sir. You know what's going to get you there? Sitting your ass down in front of a computer, or in learning Game Maker, Unity, Core Engine, Unreal. If you don't have a computer, not a problem, pal. Sit your ass down in front of RPG Maker and start putting shit out to the world, and you'll start getting phone calls if your stuff is good. I'm not being a dick. I know life is hard. I know you're busy. You may not be able to afford to do all that, but life's not going to get you there. You have to make those moves, and then people just show up. It's crazy. All right, but thank you for the super chat, and I hope I don't sound condescending. That's just been my experience, but obviously everybody has their own story. Speaking of their own story, this is the famous young adult author who wrote the very first book about trans furries who fought in the Civil War. This is Mr. Brawl 96. How are you, sir?
Hey, how's it going, Jaffe?
It's going pretty goddamn good. Well, thank you very much. I know it's accurate. I love that series. It was it was really weird. I've never considered myself a furry, and I've never considered myself a trans person. But after I read that whole series, I was like, God damn it, man. I think I need to make some new life choices. All right, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
good.
So missed the last caller because I wanted to call in because you have like several people in a row that were kind of like, oh, I'm not too familiar with Colin. So for some context, I've been following the guy since like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
So I've been following this guy's career. I'm coming from, of course, the pro Colin camp.
Okay.
And kind of my take to add to this discussion is I just find it so, I guess, annoying, frustrating. Just like not getting angry at him, but it's like, what are you guys doing? When you see a bunch of these like journalists with like 7,000 followers, and they're like, oh, what am I going to do this morning? Oh, I'm going to tweet out Colin Moriarty's toxic piece of shit. It's like, why do you have such anger towards this person that it's impossible to point to the actual racist or transphobic shit he's done? Because it isn't there. If there was a tweet where Colin was so openly racist, wouldn't that be shared around? It's this such a weird phenomenon, and kind of just wanted to
right. Well, okay. No, number one, let me just say, go fuck yourself, hogwash, you piece of shit. That's number one. Number two, yes, of course. That's okay. Number two, though, yeah. I mean, like I said, I literally just put up pictures of Klepek doing racist and anti-homophobic stuff from, I think, when he was in college. Now, look, people can change, but you at least have an old smoking gun in that case, right? Colin may have things that he says that you disagree with, and that's fine. I disagree with things Colin says, but I'm with you. I don't think he's toxic. I don't think he is a bad guy. Do I agree with him that white supremacy doesn't exist in America? Of course not. My mind is open if he can convince me, but I don't think that that's accurate. But does that mean that he is a bad dude? Listen, Brad, I'm not going to say that guy's name. We got a journalist in the chat who's saying, well, we had Hip Hop Gamer on the other day that basically was accusing Ben Kachura of saying a bunch of racist stuff or a racist thing about him. And it's like, so, and I don't think Ben's been thrown under the bus, and I wouldn't want to throw Ben under the bus. But unless he's like consistently a racist bad guy, but even then he has a right to be an asshole. I just won't follow him anymore. But yeah, I would love to know why. Colin tweeted something today that said, the gist of it was, I think the reason they really hate me is they tried to kill me and I just came back stronger. And maybe the fact of the matter is he's more influential than they are, and they can't fucking stand it. I mean, I don't know if that's a true narrative, but it certainly is a satisfying narrative. Do you think that's true?
It's a little petty to say, but at the end of the day, in some way it has to be. You have to think these guys are writing, oh, why Minecraft is actually all about the evils of colonialism. And it's like, oh, why does my article only have 100 views? Oh, when this guy, I think he's racist, so that pisses me off. Why does he have so many patrons? There's some subconscious nature of that, or even pretty conscious. But yeah, no.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. The colonialism that only has 100 views.
Oh my God.
Colin, if you guys remember, and maybe people don't, when he left Kind of Funny, his first batch of videos, he wanted to start a history channel. Like, he wanted to make videos that were about him sitting in front of the audience and talking about American history, world history, interviewing people, and he relatively quickly pivoted to just games. And he hasn't done that in a long time. And I don't know why. I will ask him when I talk to him next, but my guess would be that he wasn't getting enough views. And he's like, I can't really make a go of it this way. And the minute he pivoted to, I don't know who Dustin is, Captain Hogwash. If he's here,
I'll explain that. Yeah, Dustin works with Colin, so he's on. He's part of Last End Media.
Well, where is he? They say let him call in.
He was in the chat like an hour ago, like at the top of the thing. I don't think he's been commenting now, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't let people call in. They put themselves in the call-in waiting room. I'd love to have him on. That'd be great.
I feel like that'd be maybe he's from his. I'm speaking for Dustin now, but like he doesn't want to speak for Colin, so.
Oh yeah,
and also.
Yeah, but anyway, so the back train of thought. I totally apologize.
He was doing history stuff. Yeah.
He pivoted away from that. Do I think colonialism is an important topic? Sure, but you know what? Most of my stream used to be all about weird shit that I loved those streams. I loved talking about what it was like to be in a plane crash and what happens to the body in a plane crash. I love talking about a guy who lost his arm and carried his severed arm around with him for 20 years and then had it mounted and framed above his kitchen. But ultimately, I couldn't monetize that. I couldn't make enough views out of that. So I pivoted most of my content to gaming. And ultimately, you know, yeah, your video about colonialism is probably not going to be as popular as your video about why you think Returnal doesn't need an easy mode. But that's just, you know, that's capitalism. You know, if you're really good at your job, you can make colonialism interesting. But sorry, you can't, so you only get 100 views. Right, Joe says when I talk politics, 90% of my viewers leave. They do. And that's okay. But I don't talk about it that much.
So you know how it's actually interesting because back to why Colin moved from history back to video games and kind of how you're saying where the views are. The main thing was because so many people were asking him for a PlayStation podcast. He said there was just so much demand for it. It wasn't so much, you know, it was like his audience was like saying like, yo, we love seeing this. So he's like, all right. And you know, he was doing too much work, he was saying, but I feel so weird speaking for Colin.
But, well, I don't know, but my guess would be that, okay, so Samantha says Colin was getting better numbers doing history.
That's not true.
I doubt that. I mean, Samantha, show me some stats. I'm sure like the first month when it was all the news and he's like, yeah, stick it to the man for what they did to you. Yeah. But I don't think when he was, you know, on month 3 and he was talking about, did you know that Andrew Jackson's horse actually fought in 3 wars? I mean, my guess would be that was not bringing in the ducats, but I could be wrong, man. Dustin so Dustin is in the chat. Dustin, if you don't want to join our Discord, I'll give you my phone number. We're supposed to talk anyway to set up a conversation with Colin, so I'm happy to chat with you.
Yeah, to clarify, he is the executive producer at Last Time Media.
Yeah,
I wanted to get this full title.
I think he's the guy in the bottom center square of
Sacred Symbols,
Colin's show. Okay, but I got you, Mr. Brawl. Look, I remain a fan of Colin. I tell you what, if somebody sent me pictures, here's what I'll tell you. I literally have pictures, and I don't mean to be picking on poor Patrick Klepek, but I have pictures. That's about as good as you get right now. I literally have pictures of Patrick Klepek doing racist shit. And people say, yeah, but he was young. I'm like, okay, all right, I get that. You know, people are stupid when they're in college. They're young. They haven't been educated. That's the point of college. I'm going to give that guy a second chance. I don't follow his content, so I don't know if he has shat on that second chance, but whatever. So I'm certainly with somebody like Colin who says stuff that I just simply disagree with. I not only disagree with, but I find racism and transphobiaism, and if that's the right way to say it, and homophobia abhorrent. But I'm giving Klepek a chance to say, well, that was when I was young and I've grown. I'm certainly going to give Colin multiple chances, given he's just said stuff that I don't agree with, but I don't find it, you know, abhorrent. The fact that he literally thinks there is no white supremacy in America, I don't agree with him. But unless he's partaking in KKK marches, you know, he's allowed to have an opinion I disagree with. Mr. Brawl, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Jaffe.
I left a gift for you down the hall. It's not a box, it's not a ball. It's a book by Dr. Seuss. Boom, baby, I'm the new Dr. Seuss. Good to hear from you. Thank you, Mr. Brawl.
I'm canceled.
All right, yeah, there you go, bud. All right, so since Dustin showed up, the episodes have gotten about an hour longer. It's so good. Yeah, where's Dustin? Where are you, you coward? Get in here, Dustin, you old so-and-so. Why won't he call me? I'm kidding, but if you're here, Dustin, I'd love to talk to you. Mike Marshall in the chat says, Klepek is another game journalist who also comes across as far more arrogant than he has any right to be. There's Dustin. There he is. Dustin says, I'll leave the conversation for David and Colin, a.k.a. I'm a baby. I don't want to speak on Colin's behalf. I want to talk about Last Stand. Get in here, Dustin. Come on now. The people want to hear from you, and we need to set up a goddamn call with you, me, and Colin. Do you want to come in and talk at all, Dustin? If you do, you have the mic. I'd love to chat with you. If not, not a problem, pal. We'll talk later. Andrew says Colin sent Greg a code for one of his games, and Greg talked about briefly on Kind of Funny, but they don't talk. I think Colin said Greg ignored him when he tried to reach out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't fucking know. Give me a minute. Yeah, sure, Dustin. Take all the time you need. God damn it. Raphael, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, Jaffe, I'm glad to support you. I appreciate it, man. He says, just don't like Colin because he comes off as a jerk, and I don't need that with my limited time to enjoy media. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Colin would say to you, from what I know about Colin, Colin would say, yeah, man, if you don't like me, don't listen to me. I support that. Colin has said on his show before that he doesn't even listen to any gaming podcast. He listens to sports podcasts and stuff, right? So I got you. I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think Colin would, but I appreciate your support. Solid Snake, of course, I appreciate your support, buddy. When you gonna make a new game, Solid Snake? When are you going to make a new goddamn game? We're tired of waiting. Get on out here, you old so-and-so. But thank you, buddy, for that support as well. Andy says Colin stopped covering politics because he said the scene was too toxic and he got big offers. Yeah, I don't fucking know why he stopped covering. All I'll tell you is the guy pivots to games, and he is thriven. I know that's not right. He is thriven in that space as he always has. So I think it's great. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a student of history as well. I wasn't watching Colin's history podcast. I watched the first or second one because I like Colin. But I don't want to, and every now and then on Fireside Chats he would have on, I think he had on a guy who was an expert on like the First Amendment or something like that. And I was like, or the Constitution. I was like, oh, this is great. But 95% of the time, if I saw it was a history post, I would pass it by. I'm sure they were great, but that's just, just like you. That's not what I want to spend my time listening to. Andrew, you're saying that's why he switched. I understand. Can anyone link to anything racist or transphobic Colin has ever said? Stephen P., I think the thing that gets linked a lot is basically the story about Colin saying, hey, man, there is no white supremacy because there is... or there's proof there's not white supremacy or white privilege because if there was, why would the Asian American community be thriving as they are? You think they're only, I guess his point is you think they're only supremacist against black people but not Asian people? Right. I don't agree with Colin at all. But guess what? Doesn't matter. I still like Colin. I still like his views. I still like his moxie. I still like the cut of his jib, whatever that fucking means. All right, let me bring in Cannibal Lecter. Cannibal Lecter of the Connecticut Lectors. How are you, sir? What's going on? Don't tell me literally he never said that. I can show you the tweet, Paul Atreides. Why don't you worry about fucking mining some spice so that you can kind of see all the possible outcomes. Doctor Strange doesn't need spice, the spice melange, to see all of the outcomes of the universe. But you, Paul Atreides, I guess you do, okay? So why don't you stop giving me bullshit about what Colin did and didn't tweet, because I can show it to you, and get back to mining your fucking spice, you fucking coward of giant sandworms, piece of shit. All right, Cannibal Lecter, what's up?
Hey.
What's going on, man?
How are you?
How are you doing? I am great. How are you?
Yeah, very good. So rather than commenting on individuals, I just wanted to have a little bit of my addition in relation to the current political or any type of discourse, or what's the best way to say it? Pulling something down to show something is better method of journalism or the type of discourse. So I guess what I mean is that the best way I can show it is, let's say something is 12 teraflops. Right?
Something is what?
12 teraflops.
Okay.
All right. And then they say, the other one is 10 teraflops. 12 teraflops is better, but 10 teraflops is worse. But one side overblows that 12 teraflops to such a high degree that it's going to, bring the world 12 teraflops hasn't changed. It's always been 12 teraflops. It's going to deliver whatever it's going to deliver. But
Are you drunk?
by saying,
Are you drunk?
no, no, no.
What in the fuck
No,
are
I'm
you
not
on
drunk.
about? What in the fuck are you on about, sir?
Okay, let me just say a different way of saying it.
Oh, for
okay?
the love of
Let's
God,
just
yes,
say-
please.
Okay, so let's just say one political party says, we are, we're going to deliver you this amazing, great country.
Uh-huh.
And rather than working hard for that, what they do is they go and start attacking the other party and say, see, this is bad. This is bad. Hence, it makes us better.
Uh-huh.
Right? Okay. See, I really thought that, the American way of looking at it maybe don't get it.
It's not that. Let me try to paraphrase real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You're suggesting that you think there is a problem that someone says, I want to do X, and someone says, I want to do Y, but instead of working hard to do Y, they put their energy into tearing down X.
Yes.
Right. See how easy that is, sir. Now listen, here's the problem with that. It's not that I disagree with you intellectually. All things being equal, you would be absolutely correct. However, the problem is, we have, at least in America, a culture of people who don't do critical thought. They don't educate themselves. They are very easily led by, headlines. They don't read the stories before they form opinions and share tweets and things like that. And so if you are going to combat that, you can't combat it with facts, right? Because if you could combat it with facts, I could tell people, when people say defund the police, the majority of people who say defund the police are not saying we want to get police off the streets forever, right? Some people say that, yes. But the majority of people, it's a nuanced conversation about where the funds go in order to make policing more fair and to evolve it, given that it actually started as slave catchers in America and has only evolved into a group of people that a lot of them mean well, but there is racism just marbled all throughout that organization. Well, people just go, you want to defund the police. You want to take away cops from the street, and if somebody breaks into my homestead, they're going to kill my wife, right? That's what we're dealing with. And so ultimately, you have to sort of fight fire with fire, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
But in that way, you're gonna end up tearing each other apart. It's a race to the bottom.
I'm not suggesting you're wrong, but I'm suggesting that if you don't do that, then no one has offered a better solve. But I don't think you're wrong, by the way. I think if we were doing this in a vacuum, that would be great. Again, I understand. This is what I'm saying. There's a guy in the chat right now who says, Akiro says, they literally have said get rid of the police. Let me ask you something. Were you listening, Cannibal Lecter, to what I just said? Did I say there were some people that literally meant get rid of the police? Did I say that?
No.
I did. Yes, I did. I said there are people who believe in getting rid of the police.
Yeah, of course.
But the majority, when they say abolish the police, they are talking about a nuanced position. Right?
Well, it's not abolish the police; it's defund the police.
It's defund or reform or reallocate funds in different ways. But ultimately, though, people can't listen to nuance. This guy in the chat.
And I think that's a perfect thing to say. Is let's say one side says, defund the police. Not the best slogan.
It's not. It's horrible.
Yes. The other says, oh, yes, we can get a win out of this. And runs with it, rams it into, every single newspaper, TV, website, you name it, podcast they can ever find.
Yeah,
because they benefit from it. They make money out of it.
Yeah, I get
it's horrible.
That's a bingo. I get it. Say that's a bingo. Please say that's a bingo.
That's a bingo.
Oh, come on. Say it the right way. Say it Say it the way Papa Jaffe needs it said, baby. Down in my nether regions. Go.
Ooh, Yes, bingo.
Oh my God, that's good stuff. Thanks for the call, buddy. I appreciate it. That's Cannibal Lecter. Let me just respond to his last point, then I'm going to bring on Dustin on. Yes, the other side goes after for a cheap win. The problem with this, though, is, in my opinion, it is because I know people always say I come back to this, but I do. It comes back to a lack of a social safety net in America. It comes back to unregulated or mostly unregulated capitalism. People are so intoxicated by power, and people need the votes, and people need the money from the lobbyists, and they, for whatever reason, we as a species are so easily corruptible that we are willing to do and say anything to maintain power or riches. And I think a lot of that has to do with it. At least in America, we know that if we lose that, we could lose everything. We could be homeless. We could be hurt. We could be penniless, homeless, right? I think ultimately, if we did have a kinder society, if we can make a kinder society, a lot of that would go the way of the dodo. And I don't think that's going to really come from anything short, frankly, sadly, tragically, than a revolution. I think we're going to literally need, physical violence to make the change. I hope that's not the case, but it's hard to imagine any other scenario. And ultimately, unless we evolve as humans, even if we do have revolution and change the country, it's going to go right back to the way it was. Because that's us as a species right now. Is this here Dustin, who is the secret husband of Colin Moriarty?
No, I prefer being the lower quadrant of sacred symbols, that lower square.
You're down there, so they can they can piss on you sometimes. Like, I'm Colin, I'm going to whip out my big dick. I'm building a swimming pool in my backyard. Piss all over Dustin. How are you, sir?
That's right.
Thank you for calling in, buddy. I appreciate it.
Good. I'm happy. Well, I'm only half happy to be here. I feel maybe a little pressured. I was chiming in on chat a little bit, and then suddenly the next thing I know, it's like, hey, Dustin needs to get in here right now. So,
well, okay. What were you chiming in about on the chat?
So So I did say in the chat very clearly that you and Colin, you're going to have, we're in the works of getting your own show. So I don't feel like it would be appropriate for me to speak on Colin's behalf or any way.
But you are okay.
That.
That's fair, and I respect that. But you are aware that we're in the works of us getting on the same show. Means that you have to respond to my email, right? That's the next step. Right?
I never got an email.
You were on the email where Colin is like, Dustin, can you work with Jaffe to make this happen? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's called not dropping the ball, sir. But continue with your condescending point. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just searched. I don't think I have an email, but I'll chalk it up. Maybe I missed it.
I'll send it to you. Maybe he just sent that to me, and I said yes. Have Colin reach out to me. Or have Dustin reach out to me. I'm just fucking with you. But continue though.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
No, the only thing I think that I just wanted to chime in on was I found. I'm very much, I like hearing other perspectives, and even if they are against either Colin or our company, whatever. But I just think that the comment about that the success of our Patreon is because of a pendulum swing of white supremacy just seemed a little insane to me, actually.
Wait, hang on. Do you think I said that?
No, the first caller.
Okay.
No, and I think that I just wanted to just chime in and be like, I spend hours upon hours interacting with our community and our fans, and I can say without a doubt that they are, very kind, very sweet. I see some of the interactions, not just between me or Colin and the fans, but their interaction between one another. And I don't know, I just found that upsetting. It felt a little bit like it was... casting out the whole lot just because of a personal disagreement or something like that. Does that make sense?
It does. Look, I mean, I'll tell you my take on that aspect. I certainly do not think that Colin Moriarty is a is a white supremacist or a racist or or he runs a channel for those people. That's not what he does at all. And he goes out of his way on almost every show to say everybody is welcome here. Whatever your race, sexuality, whatever you've got betwixt your legs, whether you were born with it or added it or got rid of it, come on in, let's talk video games. That has always been the Colin that I know, and I've never seen anything other. What I will say, though, yes, Brad Glasgow says, I think he's racist because he's white. That's different. Critical race theory suggests, and I agree with it, but that's a different point. You know that's a different point. But what I will say, though, is that certainly, let's put it this way, just like a lot of people come to me and say, Jaffe, I like your stream. My stream numbers are not great compared to like a lot of people, but they're better than like somebody who's got 20 viewers. And I'm always grateful for that. And they say, Jaffe, how can I do that? And I have to say, well, I'll tell you what I do, but you have to also understand that I came in with a built-in story. I came with the built-in audience, and that certainly has helped amplify the stuff that I've been doing the last couple of years. It would be wrong to say that Colin's initial success was not in part built on the back of a lot of people who felt that Kind of Funny did him wrong, right? I don't think that's his success today, but I certainly think there is a number of people at the beginning, and I'm more than happy to be wrong and have Colin tell me I'm wrong, but at the beginning, I think Sacred Symbols and Colin's Last Stand was certainly helped by the narrative of, look at these SJWs basically pushing out someone that doesn't deserve to be canceled, and we're going to throw our support behind that. I mean, would you agree with that that was certainly a big part of the narrative at the beginning, not today, but of why he was able to get that traction he got at the beginning? And he's since built on it with the same kind of quality content he's always put out.
Right. I don't think I disagree with that. I mean, there's definitely was inertia because of that. I don't think anyone would argue against that.
Right.
I think, though, the big thing is that, sure, there was that initial push, and then, and I mean, this information is available publicly, but there was, pretty large dip. They talked about the more history aspect of things and how the pivot over to games, and now, the Patreon is more successful than ever. So it's like, sure, there was that initial inertia, but I don't know if it even really matters.
I think it matters only back in the day. I don't think it matters now. I mean, I'm sure there's maybe some people who are still like, I like that Colin because of what happened with Greg, but I think that's probably a vast minority of your support. I think now it's because people genuinely like his shows. They like his opinions. Look, man, I listen to y'all's show in attempts to get better at my show, because I struggle all the time with certain news that is like, I need to do a show today. And as you guys know, there are days where the video game news gods just shower you with gifts. And there are days where all you have to talk about is an expansion that Ubisoft just announced for Assassin's Creed. And it's like, I always listen to you guys because you guys are able to find a way into so many stories that on the surface, you're like, who gives a fuck? But you can do something with them to make it compelling content. So there's no doubt you guys put out good shit. And that's where most of today's success comes from. I would agree with that.
Right. Yeah. So, I don't know what else to really say, David. You're the one you're demanding me to come on.
That's exactly right. I need to talk to you real quickly about Returnal. Why is the rumor?
Sure.
Well, the rumor is that Colin Moriarty played 90 minutes of Returnal. He gave up on it. He said it was too hard for his little hands, and he just could not handle playing the game because it was a white woman who was too old for him to want to have sex with. Is this accurate? Because I think the woman, Celine, I think her name is, she's like 45, 46 in the game. Is that right? Is Colin really ageist? Is that true?
It's definitely possible. I mean, people can see it on Sacred Symbols, the way that he treats Chris and I. We are, significantly younger than him.
Of course.
And, the receipts are out there. I got to protect my livelihood, and this is how I feed myself and how I have my house and stuff. So I can't confirm or deny these things.
Let me ask you this: where are you living? Because Colin's in New Jersey now, right? Chris is where? Still in LA?
So, okay, Colin's in Virginia.
Virginia, okay.
In Richmond area.
Okay.
I live north of Pittsburgh, and Chris right now is he's in the process of moving back to New York. He's in LA for the time being, but so yeah, we're kind of spread out all over the place.
How much of a challenge has that been? Because I have not noticed one dip in quality at all from your show since Colin and Chris sort of left the physical space. Like when I did Fireside Chats, even though I know he doesn't do that anymore, I physically went to where Colin was, but I don't see a dip at all. Has that just been, because it doesn't really matter, or because you guys have worked your asses off to keep the sense of community and keep the sense of connection even with that distance?
Right. So it's been very a careful process when we went remote initially, because my first job for Colin was editing the audio of the podcasts.
Right.
And so when Colin first went out east, we didn't even, he was visiting and we didn't tell anybody that they were remote. And I finally edited the podcast together so everything sounded totally seamless. And no one even noticed. So that was kind of step one. And now, as far as our production now, we have an excellent editor, my associate producer, Ben, who does that audio work. And we have the program we use to record is called Riverside. And so that records everyone locally and it's super low latency. So those little details really matter as far as the flow and the conversation. And
absolutely. I'm always surprised when I'm like, oh yeah, they're not in the same room when I'm driving my car and listening. Well, listen, man, congrats on all the success. It's a great product you guys put out. Are you morons for investing in Vita? Yeah, don't be a fucking idiot. Don't be stupid.
How dare you?
Pull Colin aside and say, look, you're a smart guy. You're a brilliant guy. You're good at what you do. This Vita thing, maybe not for you, sir. Maybe it's time to actually open your fucking eyes. That's what I would say if I had balls. But Dustin, I appreciate that, you have to keep the job. Yeah, what are you going to do? Listen, Dustin.
For sure.
Dustin, thank you. Hit me up on email, man. I would love to come on. I'd love to have Colin on and chat with you guys more. I love what you guys do. And thanks so much. Thanks so much, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. Just, hit me up on email. We'll get that worked out. And thanks for having me on for a little bit.
Anytime, sir. Talk to you soon. Bye, man.
See ya.
All right, I'm going to bring in R. Harbor 89. R. Harbor, what's going on, good sir? R. Harbor 89. Are you there, pal? TK421, why aren't you at your post?
Hey, how we doing?
We're good. What's going on, man?
Hey, I want to ask you about your position on the ESRB.
ESRB, okay, go ahead.
Hold on. Oh. Okay. Yeah, 1 second, man. I'm echoing my fault.
You're doing what?
I have YouTube running in the background. Okay, it's good. Hello?
I'm here, baby.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. So I want to ask you about your perspective on the ESRB and how it's been changing over the years. I remember the whole GTA hot coffee thing where it got an AO, and I remember when Oblivion went from T to M because of some blood somewhere in some dungeon. Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask, as someone who's making a rated M game, when I think the ESRB was at their most morally outrageous, did you ever have any issues with that? Did you have to negotiate?
No.
And if so,
yeah.
What did you? Okay.
Yeah, no. So
okay. You didn't have to negotiate?
Well, so the only real issue we ever had nothing to do with the ESRB. It had to do with issues in Europe and other countries where we had to make cuts to games like Twisted Metal Black and God of War, which had nothing to do with Sony or the ESRB. It literally, there were countries in those territories that the same SKU or the same disc would go to, where these guys literally would not allow certain things we were doing in the game. So in America, I remember being very excited when I saw the ESRB quantifiers for our M for God of War. It was like nudity and drinking and violence and blood and human on human violence. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, motherfucker. But the ESRB has been a necessity to keep government regulation, and that probably still wouldn't have worked, because especially now the Supreme Court has said that video games are protected under the First Amendment. But it's been good for sales to, at a PR level and maybe even at a practical level, to allow parents to really know what their kids are playing. Most parents don't give a fuck if their kids are playing Call of Duty. They just don't. I've seen 8-year-olds in line with Call of Duty as the first kid in line to buy the new Call of Duty in USA Today and shit, right? So, but that said, though, it's not a problem. It's only a problem when people start to think the ESRB or the Motion Picture Association of America are legal bodies. GameStop can do whatever the fuck they want. It's just that there would be probably PR problems if they started selling M-rated titles to 3-year-olds or AO titles or whatever. All that's ultimately going to go away as things become more and more digital. I think the ESRB as a organization to let people know what they're getting, certainly, I mean, who could complain about that? There's a game I played. Here's the only example I can give you. There's a game I played recently called Lust from Beyond, which is an erotic horror game. And look, man, if you want erotic games, they're out there. They're out there in droves. So it's not like you can't get them. But ultimately, this turned out to be not what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a silly, stupid, X-rated game to play on the stream. But it ended up being like Heavy Metal Magazine. It was very overt sexuality, but it was a really interesting, good horror game. And so I do think that there is a stigma, unfortunately, that prevents certain kinds of games from being seen because that stigma makes people think, oh, that's sort of not even a real game. But other than that, and hopefully that can change, other than that, though, I don't really have an issue with the ESRB.
Well, I think I've noticed that.
It sounds like you do. Yeah. So talk to me about what maybe I'm missing something. What is it you've got a problem?
Oh, okay. There we go. So the reason why I'm talking about the ESRB is because I'm not sure if they even perform the function
one second. Joe,
yeah, sure.
Joe says you're confusing the ESRB with the ESA. So I don't know if that's true or not, but continue.
Am I? Oh, I'm referring to the people who give ratings. So AO.
That's the ESRB. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and so like their idea is supposed to keep it to mature and below for it to be sold at Walmart and whatnot. And so that was sort of a check to keep games from being violent and sexual and really graphic. But I've noticed over the last 10, 15 years...
Wait.
Oh, no.
You're saying the ESRB was created in order to keep games from being graphic and sexual?
Am I wrong?
Sure, you're wrong. The ESRB was created after Joe Lieberman brought a bunch of video game executives in the wake of Mortal Kombat up in front of the Senate and threatened, I don't remember if it was a direct threat or sort of a subtextual threat, to start regulating video games, which ultimately he wouldn't have been able to do legally, but no one knew that at the time. And so just like the comic book companies after the Seduction of the Innocent book came out in the 50s, I think it was, created the comic books code, which has since mostly been abandoned. The video game company said, let's create the ESRB to make sure that people know that we are being responsible, that parents know if they're going to buy a video game, what's inside it for their kids. Whether or not there was some kind of, insidious desire amongst the video game companies that created the ESRB to make it so they wouldn't make violent video games. I mean, I guess that's possible, but that was never the intent, and it doesn't make, in terms that was publicized, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that would be why the ESRB would have been created by video game companies. Why would they create a group to literally tell them what kind of games they can make? They did it so that they wouldn't have the government step in and say, you can't keep making Mortal Kombat. You can't keep making Night Trap.
So let me rephrase. I didn't mean that it was there to kind of keep, the regulatory boot on the neck of video game developers. What I mean is maybe things were different back in the day, but when I was growing up, AO games were universally not supported on any console platform. Because we had things like, what was the AVGA?
They still aren't. You can get them on Steam.
Okay.
You can get them on Steam.
And so Yeah. But what I mean about the ESRB preventing, keeping developers from making games that are too violent is that because the developers knew that there was a cap where AO was not supported, that created sort of a ceiling, I think, for what video games could do if they wanted to get a return on their investment.
100%.
That was my point. Do you understand?
Do you
understand what I mean now? Okay.
Yeah, after you've explained it well, yes. What I will say though is that I don't think you've seen it affect violence as much as you've seen it affect sex and sexuality in games.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my question to you is that because the ESRB, I guess my question is, do you think that the ESRB has been captured by the corporations that set it up? Like they know that violent video games sell really well, and so the ESRB becomes more lax over time because everyone wins if people buy more video games?
I mean, I don't think, I think historically, let's put it this way. Do you think historically in the last 5, 6, 7 years, video games have gotten less violent?
I think they've gotten more violent.
Right. So
yeah,
maybe I don't. Are you okay? So you're saying that the video game corporations are making games that should be AO, but you think they're M because the game corporations have ESRB control?
I think that it's possible that the corporations were able to sufficiently influence the ESRB to allow a more lax interpretation of the rules to keep that M rating and to allow more visceral games to be put onto the store shelves and sold. And that's my question. Sort of remember was the BP oil spill? How it was found out that the EPA, the people were taking bribes from BP because BP was able to capture the regulatory agency by bribing them.
Yes.
I'm not saying that there's bribery, but do you think that maybe? Okay, you get it. I'm not saying there's like this conspiracy, but I'm saying the ESRB and the video game industry as a whole have the same interests. They align, they're parallel. So there's a possibility that that money talks. And
sure.
if the ESRB were able to...
Is there a possibility? 100%. But have I ever seen that? No. I have been... Sony loses money because it's not a lot of money, but they lose money because we would have to wait on the ESRB rating to finalize things. So it's not like I never got a wink and a nod from the head of the studio or Shuhei or anyone going, you're going to get an M. Don't worry about it. Just carry on with your marketing plan. It was like, we can't pull these triggers until we know what our rating is going to be. And that's also the same reason a lot of games, this game not yet rated. So has there ever been any under the table stuff happening? I mean, these are people we're dealing with and people are fundamentally corrupt, especially in a society where there is no social safety net. So probably, but I have no evidence of that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. Can I ask one more question before I go?
Baby, you are a firework. Remember that song from Katy Perry? Remember that? That was awesome.
Oh, no, I have no culture. I listen to Tool and then that's about it.
Remember the song Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen? And she's like, I put a wish in the well. You remember that?
Yeah, okay, sure. I remember that. Yeah.
All right, what's your last question? Go.
Based on what you know about Sony culture, being a veteran in the industry, CDPR and the removal of Cyberpunk, I thought was considered an embarrassment and really unacceptable by Sony. They took it off the store. Do you think there's ever going to be a point where Sony...
Sorry. Yeah. Are you saying putting the game out in the state it was in was the embarrassment, or Sony saying it can't be on our store is the embarrassment?
I remember reading that they were upset because of the refunds, how CDPR told them to get refunds through Sony.
So who are you upset with?
Oh, I'm not upset with anyone. I was just asking your opinion. I was asking, do you think that CDPR will ever be able to re-release Cyberpunk after how they treated Sony?
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, and I think Sony will welcome them with open arms. I think, look, Sony, here's the deal. Sony fucked up too, right? Sony has quality control. Sony should have, if the game wasn't good enough for Sony PlayStation Network, then why did they approve it? You can't just put anything on PSN. It has to go through checks and balances. And ultimately, Sony probably saw the bugs and said, yeah, but this is going to make everyone a lot of money, and we think it's good enough. Go ahead and pull the trigger. Sony probably maybe believed that CD Projekt Red said, our day one patch is going to fix 90% of these things, which does happen, and 95% of the time, the developer is honest about it. It's hard to know whether they were just not honest or Sony dropped the ball and they should have known better. I don't know. But I think once they can submit a build, I don't know if it'll ever come on PS4, but once the PS5 version pops up and it clears the hurdles that Sony rightly so puts up in front of their games to be on the PSN store, it'll be there. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I played Cyberpunk for about 3 or 4 or 5 hours on Stadia, and I didn't have a lot of bugs on Stadia. I just wasn't in the headspace to play it at the time. But when it comes out on PS5, I'm very much looking forward to getting back to it. And I think Sony will absolutely publish it. I don't know that, but I think that. Thank you, bud. I appreciate the call, man. All right, there he goes off into the night. Hang on a second. I want to give a little shout out real quick to Ryan Butcher, who says, I have decided to put my money where my butthole is, and that is on the Jaffe. That is on the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you, buddy, for joining our little band of pirates sailing across the waters of, I don't know, baby. Ryan Butcher, thank you for joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. It's kind, it's courteous, and your support is very appreciated and very welcome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Somebody was saying, Jaffe, will there ever be sex in video games mechanically? There already has been. I mean, what does that actually mean, right? God of War literally had play mechanics simulating sex. Lust from Beyond literally has a Goff meter simulating the thrust of your penis in and out of a vagina. So it exists. I'm not sure how much more would you, what I guess you could take the DualSense. Where's my controller? I guess you literally, not even I guess, I know. You literally could take it and go like this, to indicate thrusting. And maybe she's like, just the tip. And you're just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe if you're having sex with a virgin, or it's anal sex, or it's just a person who's very tight, you could use the haptic feedback so it's harder, if you're using the buttons to kind of, to push down, to simulate sort of the breaking into that, Fort Knoxian cavity. It's possible. God, I'm good at design. All right, but I appreciate it. And Brett, the illustrator, has also said, I'm going to give you some nuggets, motherfucker. Here is the Diet Soda Soldier, our newest Diet Soda Soldier, who's going into battle with us. Good sir, Brett, the illustrator. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you tonight at our game night. You know what happened the other day? I got a phone call from my best friend, the only man I've ever had a gay sexual experience with in college. And I was like, I just had to try it. I was drunk and I didn't like it. But he's calling in right now. This is Paul James. Paul James, how are you, sir?
Oh, Jaffe, I'm well. How about you, mate?
How are you, man? Good to talk to you.
Very, very well.
Good. What's going on?
So I thought I'd jump in on the whole Colin Moriarty conversation that's popped up today.
Okay.
So, I'll preface everything. A straight white dude, so my perspective might be a bit different to even some that have come on the show so far.
Straight white dude, am I right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Am I right? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I guess it's a perspective that's worth keeping in mind. But I guess I'm just piling in as a character reference of sorts. So, I used to consume Colin stuff for years, whether it was through Beyond, whether it was just his written stuff at IGN.
Yeah.
He's one of the biggest influences for me in terms of kind of my pursuit to actually get into the industry a little bit myself.
One moment, sir. Yes, I'm kidding. I don't know Paul. Not that would be a shame to admit it, but of course, really? Come on. Okay, go ahead, Paul. Keep going.
We've chatted once in the past. I'll toss you under the bus here. I tried to get you on my podcast, and I've had Colin on in the past, and you said you were keen, and then gave me the silent treatment afterwards. So, Jaffe.
I gave you the silent treatment?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sure I just got lost in the Twitter.
That would be what it was. I am. You don't have to give me shit. I have ADD and I don't have a producer. I don't have a Dustin. Okay, some of us aren't big shots at this, like Colin, that can afford a Dustin. But if you want to send me a DM today, I will absolutely make it happen. I would love to be on your podcast.
Oh, fantastic! It'll be awesome.
Okay, all right. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess the actual topic at hand. I mean, like Colin, like I said, I've been consuming his stuff for years through whether it's IGN or Kind of Funny, and when he branched out on his own. I'm, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not American, so I don't really have a great deal of knowledge when it comes to a lot of American history stuff. But I even consider that period of his work really valuable and informative as well. Mm-hmm. But I managed to get him on the show, and I mean, I'm trying to build a presence, but ultimately I'm a nobody. Let's be real. And all I could ever say about
I thought you were great and the greatest showman, but whatever, you know.
I feel like I did a pretty good job myself.
Yeah.
But like he was nothing but gracious. He gave me all the time in the world. I think the show ended up going for about 2 hours, which I guess is just fits in line. It was probably very comfortable for Colin because he does 2 hour plus shows all the time. But
right.
Like I'll sit here and say I don't think I was worthy of that sort of time of his, but he gave it to me nonetheless. There was no hurry ups, there was no ifs, buts, or maybes. He was amazing, and I can never be truly appreciative of him for that.
Yeah,
so I just reached out as a
show
about game developers, and
I have never had anything but positive interactions with Colin Moriarty ever, and I'm not saying I'm not saying I agree with him on everything. But I don't know when I don't know when that became a rule that you can only talk to people and like people who share every single fucking idea that you have. That's the most ridiculous, dumb thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, that's actually. I'm making it sound like it's a plug now. I'm trying to avoid doing this, but we've seen Colin on Twitter recently with his kind of and / on his shows talking about his issues with Rami Ismail and kind of some of their back and forth regarding
fuck that guy.
6 Days in Fallujah and those sorts of things.
Fuck that guy. That guy laid into me. I'm like, who the fuck are you? I liked your little air. I mean, I don't have a problem with Vlambeer, but he'll criticize me without reaching out to me, without any evidence. I don't like that Rami Ismail guy either. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I guess like even that sort of perspective on it's kind of important here, like the whole, but you still hear people out sort of idea. So like I've had Colin on the show, I think it was 6 to 8 months ago at this point, and just as a matter of coincidence, given what you've just said, Rami's my upcoming guest going live this week.
Okay.
Like and I think the nature of the show means that you're trying to get people from all walks and all stories and all experiences and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think to the point that you've made throughout the stream constantly, you don't necessarily have to agree with someone. But hearing them out, trying to at least understand, even if you can't relate or agree with their opinion, is super important. I think it's gotten to the point with someone like Colin where people aren't willing to actually listen to what he's saying.
No.
Or people will paraphrase it and take it out of context.
Yes, and I don't know why. I mean, we've speculated on this stream why, but I agree. I think... I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about the guy. I think he's a good dude. I think, Colin once raked and bagged the leaves in my yard for free, says Cucamonga. That's good to know. But yeah, I hear you, man. I appreciate it. And, yeah, it's very strange. But listen, let's do your show. I am so sorry I went radio silent. It wasn't intentional.
No.
It fell between the cracks. Send me a DM right now or when you get a moment in the next 20 minutes, and we will book it this weekend.
Will do. All right. Well, that's awesome. That wasn't really quite the play, but thanks so much, David.
It doesn't have to. Don't take whatever shot you get, baby. Come on now. All right, Paul. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks for your time, David.
Anytime. All right, man. I am going to first. By the way, I want to let you know that Vitter Now, who has a great Twitch stream. I was just on his Twitch stream last week. Has joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you very much, sir. I hope I will see you tonight. On our game night, we're playing Second Extinction, and maybe it takes two. We're going to play a bunch of multiplayer stuff with members. Hopefully, I will see you. Okay, this is Lord Kratos. Lord Kratos, what's going on, pal? Hello, Lord Kratos.
Jaffe, you old so-and-so.
Well, how are you, so-and-so? What's going on, man?
Good. I was just going to ask, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, so I called in, Jaffe, to ask, do you remember the video that you said you were going to make about the unknown things about God of War 1?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I remember it, and I'm making it. What about it?
But yeah, I was just gonna ask if you were making it. Yeah, that's it.
I am. What is your name on the? Just so I can send you a tweet when it's live. What is your name on? Your
Twitter?
No, God damn it, I'm losing my mind. When you're subscribed, when you're a member on YouTube to either Diet Soldiers or Cult Calypso, which one are you?
I'm Iman. IMAN.
Oh, right. Okay. So
yeah, that's me.
I'm going to put that up as a members only video first, and so I will make sure that all members see that, and then a few days later it'll go out to everybody else.
All right, Jaffe. We have a game night tonight, right?
Yes, tonight. I will see you live. Hopefully, it's going to be fun.
All
right, dude. See you soon.
See you, sir.
All right, man. All right, Icer8787 of the 8787 family. I don't know. Go. What's up, buddy?
What's up, Jaffe? This is actually Muppet Joe, and I know you go to sleep at night thinking about the sumo, Circle of Sumo, how I clean sweeped everybody when we played that. I know that was some rough time bringing it.
It was rough, but it was also kind of fun. So hopefully we'll see. So what's up? What do you want to talk about?
Man, I wanted to say thanks for having people with different opinions come on the show. And the thing about it is, when you think about what people are saying about Colin and talking about deplatforming people like Colin that have maybe a different idea or opinion or whatever, right? I mean, it's just like if that guy came on your show and was like saying that stuff and you disagreed and then we just kicked him off and we didn't even listen to his point of view, that's the world where, like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter what, like, I live in a world where my father is conservative. My best friend is far left. Like, I have friends that are trans. I have friends that, I live in a world where I hang out with people that have different ideas and different thoughts and, upbringings. And, dude, I don't know. Like, what is the fix for all of this? Like, for me, it's just stress.
Here's what I'll tell you. And I don't know if you're a white guy, a black guy, what you are, a trans guy, whatever your shtick is, it doesn't matter. But the reason I ask about it is that as a straight white cis, I think that's it, male, I always took that perspective that you're taking and thought that was the high road. And anybody who didn't believe it really was just not a fan of freedom of speech and things like that. And I still feel that way. But I will say I'm grateful that I have come into the knowledge, even though I don't agree with what they want to do about it, that is a privileged position to have. Because the fact that you're saying, I mean, are you a white guy or not?
Yeah, I'm a white.
Okay, you're a white. For you to say, for me, it's just stress. Well, I've had black folks on the show before say, like, for them, it's life or death. For trans people, for LGBT people in certain countries and even here in America, it's life or death. And so for them, I now, even though I don't agree with changing the First Amendment in order to make it so these ideas cannot flow into the culture and continue to create negative consequences, I absolutely get how it's easy to support that position as a straight white cis guy. But to be a black person or a Muslim in America or a LGBT person in America, even though I know a lot of those folks still unequivocally support that First Amendment above all else, I get how that's a harder fight to support, because doing so directly does make their life not only harder but more dangerous.
I agree. I think, like everyone's kind of expressed, I just feel like we're going about the wrong way, right? Like, I go with if my friend walks into Target and he's extremely left and he sees somebody without a mask, he can't not get into a confrontation.
Wait,
you know what I mean?
Say this again. Your liberal friend walks into a Target and he obviously wears a mask, which is pathetic that has become a liberal position to wear a fucking mask. Right. But he sees somebody without a mask and says he has to go up and say something.
And I don't disagree with it, but it's just coming from a weird place, right? Like, it's coming from a place, like, is it actually coming from, like, you care about this, or is it just an opportunity for you to get, like, express anger? Like, and I feel like a lot of people are funneling energy into something else. It's coming from somewhere else sometimes, like and that comes from all sides. And I just feel like things are rising and bubbling up, and people are looking for outlets and putting all of this like anger in a weird place.
Well,
instead of like coming together, right?
Well, okay, but you're not wrong about some of that for sure. I mean, I do think some people see the anti-maskers and all that, and they're just like, there's a point where I think you do have to look at some of those people and say, we can all be fair and treat each other equal, but then there's just stupidity.
Oh, ignorance, yeah.
And I mean, the fact that there are people out there that associate wearing a mask with submission and the government trying to control you, it's like, if there's a lot of ways. Look, I'm a guy who has an open mind about 9/11 being allowed to happen by the American government. I'm not saying the government would never do that, but practically speaking, the government controlling you. Why would they? There's over 1 million people in the world dead from this thing. Mm-hmm. That's not a joke. These are the fact that The Rock, one of the manliest men on the planet, got COVID. Right? I mean, this is you can't be dominant and not submissive to invisible fucking germs. Right? So there's a point where it's just like, can we come together and agree there's a lot of corruption in the government and maybe there's some real nasty shit that's gone down? Absolutely. But you're talking about invisible fucking germs, motherfucker. You're talking about millions of people dead or almost 600,000 dead in America. What are you talking about? So there's a point where it's just like, if I'm your friend, you just can't be surrounded by that much stupidity. But oh, shut up, Doge, you stupid idiot. Doge in the chat says, he says, oh, trust me, a mask can definitely be submissive. Not that kind of mask. Not that kind of mask, you stupid.
Oh shit.
But that's why you're not in the credits of Oddworld, you fucking knucklehead. But what I will say though is fundamentally what you're really talking about, I think, It goes so much deeper. Like, you almost need an alien anthropologist to look at our culture and has a removed perspective, because it's never about what it's about. And there is so much baked into this about a lack of power on the part of so many people as the richer have gotten richer. A lack of a sense of being able to take care of yourself and your family, a lack of a sense of security, a lack of not being able to really know who to trust when it comes to when you turn on your television. Not that it was ever honest, but at least we were lied to and we didn't know it was dishonest back in the day. And I think all of that is expressing itself in a way that's left and right in politics and all that. But I think so much of it is just people are absolutely scared and terrified because the world is, it's not that the world is getting evil. The world is safer in some ways than it's ever been. But I think the world is also more corrupt and selfish and heartless than it's ever been. So
yeah, I think you're dead on, man. You're dead on. And I think that's where my issue is. I'm just coming from a place of like just wishing we all had empathy and compassion. And obviously that's just that's too much to ask in this world, I think, right?
It's not too much to ask, but it's really hard to get. I think the minute somebody sits down, frankly, and meditates for more than a week, you start to have compassion for everyone else, because you realize, holy shit, we're all suffering. All right, man. Thank you so much for the call. Call back anytime. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. Take care.
All right, man. You too. In the chat, there's Paul Atreides says, turns out when people get lied to, they start to be wary. Yeah, Paul, but the problem with that is that you don't know who's really lying to you. And so these days there's a lot of opportunistic folks who will make their ducats off telling you something because they know it's not true, but they know you'll buy their shit because of it. I'm a lot quieter than my callers. I got to get an audio guy. I don't know, man. My mic is turned all the way up. My gain is all the way up. My microphone setting on OBS Studio is all the way up. I don't know what to tell you. I hear you, Doge. You're right. Okay, hang on a second. Brian E. says, I feel like my life is better off when I ignore the partisan political landscape. Yeah, but assuming, Brian East, that your avatar is you're a white dude. It must be nice, and I can tell you it is, because I'm a white dude too. Or at least some people say you're white passing, Jaffe, because your dad was Jewish. Fine, whatever. But I don't get that kind of, stuff in my life, that kind of bigotry in my life that at least is to my face. And so it's easy to tune it out. Hip Hop Gamer, again, was the last guy I talked to about this. Try being him, where he literally won't drive a car anymore because he's worried about the cops. He can't just turn it off. Laud says, Laud have mussy. Come on now. He drops a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, how do I talk about this? I got a lot to say about Colin. Join the Discord. Rob the mod if he's still there. I think he is. We'll put the link up and you can join the Discord. There'll be a little bit of a waiting period, not long, and I'll bring you on. Samson, hello, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. He says the reason people are upset about what Colin said is because him saying Asians are doing well implies black people have the issue. It's not racism. Well, you can be upset with that. Okay, so let me make sure I understand that though. So Colin's saying people are upset because he said Asians are doing well, and thus the problem is with black people, not racism. Well, I think both of those things, one of those things can be true without the other thing being true, right? Do I think that Asian folks in America have also suffered from horrible racism, especially when a lot of them were, basically forced over here to build railroads? And of course. But I also think that culturally, and this is not racially, this is culturally, whether it's the culture they came from or the culture because it wasn't coming from a generation or many generations of slavery, they were able to build a different kind of culture that allowed success. The black communities, because of slavery, because of the family units being ripped apart during the slave days intentionally as punishment, because of the racism that was allowed to continue in the country even after not the sort of legal slavery that has been allowed to continue in the country in the name of capitalist desires. Like if you look at sort of, I wasn't even aware until recently that companies like Amazon actually are able to make money off prison workers. Well, most prison workers are black because most people in prison, or at least at a per capita or per the amount of black people, there are more blacks per, I always fuck up how to say this. I'm not saying there's more black people in prison. I'm saying based on the population of black people in America, that percentage of black people in prison is substantially higher than white people, right? When you have all of that pushing down on your culture in America, and you say, so I would agree with you, because of that, it would affect anyone. But that doesn't mean the black race is a worse race. That's a ridiculous concept. It means that the black race is having to deal with a lot of shit that the white race hasn't had to deal with, and the Asian race in America hasn't had to deal with. And so it's not necessarily it is fundamentally a racist statement because it's pointing to the systemic racism that runs through the country, is my point. If that makes any goddamn sense. I know that was a fucking mouthful and I apologize, but there it is. Ricardo says, have I replied to your super chat? No, because I didn't know you sent one. Hang on. Oh, I'm sorry, man. You know what? I got to get to some super chats. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take literally like a very small break, like 4 minutes. I need a Diet Coke. I need to clear my head. I'm going to come back from that break and I'm going to do the super chats, and then I'm going to do the calls that have come in. I apologize if I have missed some of your super chats. I'm just kind of I'm raring to go. Let's keep going if you want. I just need a bit of a break. So in 4 minutes I will be back and we will continue. I will do the super chats. Then I have Lord have mercy. I have Sir Little Bart calling in, and anybody else who wants to call in and talk and whatnot. I'm here for you. But give me 4. I'll be right back. Thanks, fellas. I'm coming. I'm be right there. Fuck off. Orang, listen. I don't like to eat on stream because it grosses people out when people eat on stream. So that's what I'm doing. I'm done though. Give me a second. Stephen P, thank you, buddy. Okay, here we go. We're back for a little bit. We got some calls, but let me get the super chats I missed. I apologize about that. Did I miss Joseph Morales? Morales, good sir. I think I didn't congratulate you on becoming the world's greatest thing, a diet soda soldier. Thank you so much for joining our merry band of fucksticks. Could everybody who is capable give him a image of Thor's weapon and Taylor Swift in cartoon form? That would make me happy, and I think it would make Jojo Morales happy as well. Thank you, pal. Okay, listen. We got... I read Samson's. Okay. Lamp says, guess what this currency is, Jaffe? And it looks like a little ostrich or something. Like it's... I don't know what it is. It's Polish? Is it Thank you, Ricardo. Is it Polish? I don't know. Hello, retired gamers. Good to see you, man. That's my guess. Anthony says, Greg, thank you for the super chat. He says, Greg Miller is a coward and a bad friend. Look, I can't really speak to Gregory. I've met him a handful of times. I've been on his show a couple of times. I haven't talked to Greg in a long time. I'm a little... I don't have any evidence to suggest that Greg doesn't like me. I know, let's put it this way. If somebody said, oh yeah, Greg doesn't like you now because you've chosen to side with Colin, which is a ridiculous, what am I, 5? I'd go, oh, okay. I guess maybe I can believe that only because of the way he's been painted by people. When I met him though, and I've never gotten the sense he's that kind of guy. I just think there's no real reason for our paths to cross right now, but I can't speak to that. Here's what I'll say, and I appreciate your super chat. If what a lot of people accuse Greg of doing with Colin, is accurate, then yeah, I would say he's a bad friend and a coward, but I don't, how the fuck do I know? It's none of my business. Greg doesn't like Colin, says Orang, but I bet he would turn against you if you're Colin's friend. Yeah, I have no idea. Okay. I hope not. I did just see he's going to be a dad. Congratulations to the Miller family. That's great news. Ricardo says, would love to see David Hayter here to talk about Guyver, of course. Well, I'll reach out to him. I've never seen Guyver. So I know what it is. It's kind of like a Japanese superhero thing or something, and he does the voice of it in the dub. And obviously he wrote the first X-Men, and he obviously most famously, at least amongst our type of folk, is the original voice of Solid Snake, and probably the best of Solid Snake so far. But anyway, so yes, I appreciate that, Ricardo, and I'll see if he wants to come on. Raphael says, Jaffe, glad to support you. I just don't like Colin because he comes off as a jerk, and I don't need that with my limited time. I think I read that one, but yeah. Sure. As I said, I don't think Colin would have a problem with that. If you think he's a jerk, he'd be like, well, yeah, don't listen to me. Why would you do that? Let me bring in Lord Have Mercy. How are you, pal? What's going on? Lord Have Mercy. Are you there? Hello? Hello? Lord Have Mercy, where have you gone, I'm going to have to put you back in the waiting room. Oh, there he goes back and go back up there. Lord have mercy, all. So you're muted. Lord have mercy, if that's what you didn't know. This is Chad Egoist. What's up, man?
What's up? I actually don't know what's going on. Like, what's this talk about, like, a racist tweet or something? Like, what's the context?
Why are you here? Why are you calling if you don't? What do you want? Let me ask you this.
Because everyone's just saying so many things.
No. Let's cut to the quick. What can I help you with, sir? Don't ask me to paraphrase the whole fucking 2.5 hour show. What do you need in your life for your life to be better? What do you want to know? Go.
What's your favorite food?
Okay, it's actually a hard question because if I'm eating for taste, it's Indian food. It's cheese naan.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's cheese naan. It's biryani rice and I forget what it's called, but it's the curry that has the cheese cubes and peas in it. I forget.
Matar paneer, right?
Delightful, yes. If I'm eating because I'm stressed, which is mostly when I eat, it's popcorn or cheese pizza because it's very carby and very starchy and it shoves the pain that I refuse to deal with as a grown man down deeper and deeper into the hole.
Yeah, okay. All right,
that was
thanks.
It? All right, man. Talk to you soon. Call back anytime, buddy. All right, let me try Lord Have Mercy one more time. Lord Have Mercy, you are muted. Do you want to unmute yourself and be on the show? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He ain't saying shit. So we are going to bring in Sir Little Bank. Sir Little Bark. Sir Little Bark, it's Jaffe. What's going on, man? Good to talk to you again. Begin. What the fuck? Sir Little Bark. Sir Little Bark, what the fuck is happening, sir? Hello?
Hey.
All right, hang on. Rob, where are these fuckers? Where is Lord Have Mercy?
Well, Sir Little Bark's talking.
Okay.
Lord Have Mercy's talking.
I'm going to bring Lord Have Mercy into the chat right now. Here we go, Lord Have Mercy. 1 second. All right, here we go. Lord Have Mercy, are you there? God damn it, Maverick. Hang on. Sir Little Bark, are you there? God damn it, Maverick. Okay, fuck it.
What is going on?
I am going to mute everybody except Lord, and I'm going to be in the call-in waiting room because for some reason it keeps kicking you guys out. So everybody's going to be muted for a minute except good Sir Lord Have Mercy. Lord Have Mercy, what do you want to talk about? Go.
Hello. Yeah, hey, thanks, Jaffe. Thank you for Twisted Metal. I've been, that's fucking awesome. I'd just like to talk about
many of us made that game. It wasn't just me, but on behalf of all of us who made it, you are very welcome. Thank you for playing our game. I love that universe. I love those characters. I hope to God we haven't seen the last of them, but thank you for that. So what's up? Yes.
You're welcome. So yeah, I just want to talk about Colin real quick. I followed him for several years, the whole Kind of Funny fiasco, all that blowback. Yeah, see, here's the thing. I've from what I've gathered, I just saw this shit going up, and so some lib pulled this shit out of Twitter 3 years ago about Colin complimenting Asian people. Like, what? I think making a stereotype is racist, but like, okay, so what? Yeah, like, I think it can be racist to say that everyone, like I remember when I was a fucking dumbass 15-year-old kid, I looked at my friend who was an Asian American, and I'm like, how are you getting a fucking D in math, dude? That was me being racist. Like, just because something is positive doesn't mean it can't be racist.
That is.
I just don't understand.
Are you saying you agree with that or don't agree with that?
I'm saying I agree that it is racist, but at the same time, he's not talking down to him. Like, you shouldn't. I think stereotypes in and of themselves are racist.
So again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, it's coming from that person. Are you a white guy?
Yes, I am.
It comes from a place of privilege, which is not. I hate that that's such the default answer, but so you are absolutely right. In Colin's case, he is complimenting the Asian culture. In your case, you were giving a bit of a backhanded compliment to the Asian culture because you're like, hey, what the fuck? Why are you a dumb Asian? But you were still saying something that was ultimately complimentary. But to see it that way means, though, that you have been the beneficiary of a great deal of privilege because it is still supporting and it is still perpetuating the mental work of throwing an entire race into a category and saying this is how they are. Now, yes, you're saying it's a good thing that they are. But I think what a lot of people that aren't coming from that position would tell you is it's not that, we, whoever they are, don't appreciate the compliment. It's that I would rather not have the compliment and instead have a lot of white people stop having the consistent way of thinking about my group, whether they're the trans group, the LGBT group, the black, the Muslim, whatever. I would rather you not have you thinking about my group as anything other than just me as a human individual, because I think that's where it comes from, where people say, yes, it's racist and here's why it's bad. No one's denying the fact that you're also giving an individual a compliment. But I think that takes a back seat to the fact that your way of thinking about people and race is still fundamentally negative. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean,
yes, it does.
That would be my take on it, man. That would be my take on it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a bit nervous, dude. I'm talking to David fucking Jaffe, but yeah, no, I feel you. I just, from what I gather, like, wasn't this a tweet from like 3 fucking years ago? Like,
yeah,
they're still trying to nail him with something, dude. Like,
that is a totally different question, which I still don't have an answer for. The only thing that's come close, we talked about it earlier, is perhaps Colin, really pisses in their cornflakes because the guy is so successful and he has such a fan base, and these guys really struggle with that because I don't think their hearts are in the wrong place regarding, I think they think they're righteous. I think they think, and they're anybody who wants to push back against racism is fighting the good fight. But I don't think they understand Colin's position, and Colin doesn't toe their line, and in that it seems to drive them batshit. And that's, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's the only thing I can think of why 3 years later they're still coming after Colin, but every day they're not going after Patrick Klepek, or they're not going after Ben Katura. I like Ben personally. Hip Hop Gamer literally came on my show the other day and said he heard. Now again, this is hearsay. Maybe it didn't happen. Maybe Ben would say that's not true. Okay, but he says that he heard that Ben Katura said about him, it doesn't matter what hip hop thinks, he's just another black guy. Now let's assume that's true. Well, if that's true, that should be talked about. Patrick Klepek stuff should be talked about, but it's not. So that's the only thing I can think of, which indicates why they're upset with Colin so much 3 years on.
Yeah, like I personally, I grew up in the South, very Christian biblical background.
Where did you grow up? What part?
Memphis, Tennessee.
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, sir.
Yeah, dude, great state. I got a lot of kinfolk out there.
No, it's not.
No,
they just passed a law saying that trans people, that like parents would be child abusers, and they're denying trans kids health care. Come on.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful state, and there are a lot of great people there, but they're backwards as fuck on some things. That's the goddamn truth.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Thank you for the call, buddy. Call back anytime.
Yes,
I appreciate it, bud. Call back.
Thank you, David. God bless. Bye-bye.
You as well, sir. All right, this is Sir Little Bark. Hello, Sir Little Bark. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well. How are
Oh,
you?
I'm so glad you are. What would you like to talk about?
So I just want to probably reiterate what the last guy said.
Well, that's going to be really entertaining. Go ahead and say what the other guy said.
Not totally, but
okay.
As someone that's a support or someone that likes Colin, seems like a decent guy, and also is socially left and progressive as you.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that you're allowing all these people with their different shades and opinions have these conversations without it being crazy. So I just think that's nice. But the question I wanted to ask was, if I'm misquoting you, correct me, but
okay.
I recall you made a video where you mentioned that it seems like the younger generation, and as the generations go on, everyone's getting nicer. And I feel as though I've seen that as well. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's kind of two things. On one hand, I think they are getting more accepting of LGBT, different religions, lack of religions, like that I love seeing in the younger generation. I love seeing it in kids older than my friends, older than my kids younger than my kids. It's really a great thing to see. But I think also this generation and a younger generation that grew up with school shootings, with 9/11, with all of this shit, unlike my generation, I mean, you know, I was a kid of the 70s and 80s. We had summer. We didn't, you know, we never went to school and worried about shootings. We never worried about terrorism. That was something that happened on the TV, you know, at 6 o'clock that your parents would watch. It's like, oh, I get, you know, maybe you worried a little bit about a nuke going off because of movies like War Games and the day after or whatever. But we had a very privileged childhood. At least I did, and a lot of my friends did. That doesn't mean everybody did. But today's generation of kids and a little older, when you grow up with that kind of stress, with that kind of anxiety, I understand why it colors your perspective of where freedom fits in your hierarchy of importance, right? It's easy for me to talk about freedom being the most important thing, and I still think it is. I think it's the bedrock of everything. But at the same time, I've never had to go to high school and run for my life from somebody shooting or know that that's an actual thing that could happen. And so I do think the younger generation is more accepting, but I also think in some ways they've become less tolerant of freedoms that the older generation have taken for granted because they've seen what that freedom has cost. And it doesn't mean it's not worth it, but I think they're bearing the brunt of it more often than anyone else.
Right. And I guess going along with that, I guess, and I can't say I have a well-formed opinion about this, so it's really just an open chat, but do you see that acceptance going as far as accepting the different opinions that we're discussing today?
No,
do you see that tolerance winning out?
No.
And because you mentioned earlier that if this turns into violence, and I'm wondering, does it turn to violence, or do we see the acceptance, widening for, okay, I disagree with you, and I'll leave it at that, or because obviously there were obviously some concerns, at least I've heard them, with people thinking that, hey, there's a civil war coming. And I wonder, what are the sides that are fighting here, Well,
that's a lot of questions. I would say that I think the younger generation is more accepting of different defined religions and races, but they're less accepting of things that they find they find offensive, which I know sounds like I'm saying two different things, but they're more accepting of things the older generations weren't. Gay people, trans people, black people, Muslim people, all that. But if you step outside that more accepting checklist, they are less tolerant than anything I've ever encountered. So I don't know if it's a wash or not, but that's what I would say. Sir Little Bark, I appreciate the call. Call back anytime, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, man. I want to get to two things in the chat. This super chat, Fuzzy. I'll get to Fuzzy in a minute. Jordan says, Jaffe, what's the best way to reach out to you about an appearance on my podcast? Just hit me up here either on Twitter as a DM or hit me up on a DM on our Discord, and we'll make it happen, dude. Fuzzy says, Jaffe, what do you think of the overall difficulty of Returnal? I missed the stream. Okay. That's a real hard thing to say. I did think Eternal was saying that the team is considering making it easier or putting an option in, which I don't think would be a bad thing. But so, okay. I think the moment-to-moment gameplay and the meta gameplay of Returnal is so fun and so good. And I think the narrative that they're telling so far about what is happening in this story is so interesting, and it's so well done. It's such a good riff. The movies I compare it to in terms of tone and theme and even art direction are things like Annihilation with Natalie Portman and Arrival with Amy Adams, obviously Prometheus, obviously Alien Covenant. It's just all there, right? I think it's too rogue-like for its own good. I wish it was a little more rogue-lite, But that said, I have not wanted to not play it. Like, I have gone the longest run I've probably had, and I haven't even gotten to the first boss because I'm following Ricardo Estevez's advice and I'm exploring everywhere. So I haven't even made it to the first boss, but I've had like a 45 or 55 minute run. And the minute I was dead, I was like, okay, I have to be done. And I'm like, nope, I want to go right back in because the moment to moment is so fun. So I will be stunned if I ever finish this game, which is disappointing because out of all the games I've played, I'm dying to know what the fuck is going on. I have a theory. I don't know if it's accurate. And I'm enjoying playing it still, but there's no way. Like, I encountered a series of enemies last night that had like 2 health bars. And I had leveled up my character, within reason. I'd been playing for 55 minutes, so they weren't as great as they could be, but they weren't, nothing. And I still just got my ass kicked, right? So I can't fathom as it gets harder and harder and harder that I'm going to want to stick with it, because it just feels, it's too much for me, but I love it though. I absolutely fucking love it. Yeah, you can put it in rest mode. It's in rest mode right now, Eddie Jordan. It's just what you can't do is save it. So if you power down your PlayStation, here's what I don't know. I know you absolutely cannot save the game mid-run. What I don't know is because there are certain things that do stay permanent with your character. Not a lot, but there are certain things that stay permanent with your character in between runs. What I don't know is if you have those permanent things and you shut down the game. I haven't done that yet. Will those things save? I think those will. But certainly you can't save mid-run and you shouldn't be able to. I mean, that's not what the genre is. Joe says, my opinion on difficulty has changed. Devs that can afford to make changes should. Some people want an easier experience to enjoy the story, and that's okay. If Returnal can do it, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I don't mind games being hard, but I think, and look, they're fine if you want to look, it's the same thing I'll tell you about anything else. The more expensive games get, the more it becomes hard to play to the margins of super hardcore gamers, okay? And when it comes to rogue-like games, or even roguelite games, you are going to see a lot of those games get less budget, because as much as a lot of people in the chat, I see them right now, are talking about, you're the problem, you're the fucking problem, you got to make everything easy. I'm not the problem. I'm the problem only in that games aren't made just for you anymore. Games are too expensive. You can play those on indie platforms. You can play those, on less expensive games, but don't be a moron. You want to, even Steven goddamn Spielberg, when he went to Universal and said, I want to make Schindler's List, he had just come off the most successful movie ever made, Jurassic Park. And he says, I want to make Schindler's List and I want to make it black and white. They said, do whatever the fuck you want, but you can only have $30 million. Okay? It's a business. Okay? So I get you love hardcore games. I get you love to brag about how great you are at completing Demon Souls with the platinum 20 times. That's awesome. I don't really think it's all. I don't really care, but some people think that's awesome. You have a right to think that's awesome and do it. But don't act like I'm the problem because I think a game that cost a lot of fucking many millions of dollars, probably business-wise should at least have an option to appeal to more than just a hardcore group. Don't be a fucking moron. That would be my answer. Brian Dooley. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being part of the Diet Soda Soldiers. Hopefully we'll see you tonight on Gabbin' and Games member game night, which will be starting, I'm not sure when, but it'll be sometime tonight, unless the stream goes super long. If you shut the game off, says Ricardo, it crashes. You get back to the ship, but you keep everything. The game doesn't crash. Oh, or the game crashes. Yeah, my game crashed last night. I'm hearing a lot of people saying the game crashes. Vitter says, ARS, that's Portugal? Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, thanks for coming on my stream. You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I sent you the animated background if you'd like to use it. Oh, I would love to. I have not seen Invincible yet. I'm going to watch Invincible and the new samurai movie anime from Netflix on a stream very soon. I have played Speed Limit Coffee with Games. I absolutely love it. It's too fucking hard for its own good, but it's fucking great. It's a great fucking game. All right, I'm going to bring in the last call of the day. I appreciate you guys calling. I appreciate you giving me a good stream. This was a lot of fun, very enlightening, very entertaining. This is my good friend Chronokinesis calling from the planet Poop Poo. Hee. What's up, man?
Hey, Jaffe.
What's up?
I got a few questions for you.
Okay.
But
go.
first off,
yeah.
If Kratos was an average Joe in the modern age that we live in right now, what kind of job do you think he'd be doing? And, yeah. What would he be up to?
He would probably start in MMA, and then after MMA, he would basically take Joe Rogan's job. That's what I think.
The next question, what's the most oddball, bizarre game you've ever played?
Okay, so I mean, genital jousting is pretty up there. But there's a game from Japan called Super Big Brother, which is kind of like you can get it on PlayStation. It's a shoot 'em up, and you play a almost naked guy in a Speedo, and it's digitized, so it's like Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and you're fighting other men and men's heads that are flying around, and then the first boss is a big bald dude who lifts his leg up and shoots out a giant phallic metal penis at you. So that's pretty weird. There's also a game in Japan that I have not played that I want to play. I guess there was a trend, like a practical joking trend in Japan, where you would go up to someone when they were bent over and you would try to take your finger and like put it into their butthole. Obviously they would be wearing clothes, but it would be like, hey, what the fuck? You know, it's kind of like a wet willy, but on your butthole or something, right? Well, they made an arcade game that is shaped like a butt, and you're basically taking the peripheral and you're trying to stick the peripheral of a finger into the butt of the fake arcade buttocks.
I wonder where the coin slot is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. White Rabbit says, surprise, sexual harassment. That's right. Okay, is that it? You got something else, baby? Go.
One more.
Yeah.
What is your personal favorite soundtrack in a video game?
Okay, let's throw nostalgia out, because, I mean, obviously, sometimes when I'm working, I will literally put on, there's a great YouTube channel that has, like, sounds from arcades, like, from 78 up to 85, and I'll just put that on in the background, but that's not what you're asking. I would say, I mean, I don't really follow it that closely. I will say I am loving the Days Gone soundtrack right now. I love the Returnal soundtrack right now. But in regards to my favorite of all time, I mean, probably Sega Nights into Dreams, the Christmas edition.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. I appreciate it, buddy. There we go, off into the night. Listen, let me get a couple of these last chats. Brian Dooley says, I had to join in. Thank you, buddy. Jaffe, I'd listen to you all day. Love the content. Thank you, sir. Returnal is awesome. It can be cruel hard to some. I've had the game since last week, 50 hours in. Have you finished it, Brian? That's what I want to fucking know. Solid Snake, didn't you already? Oh, you super chatted. Now you've actually joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you, sir. I have not played LSD, Mikio. Yeah, Rotten Tanuki says, I'd like to think of Kratos as a crab fisherman. Listen to me. Time zone. I am in the Pacific time zone. I'm California. So right now it is almost 5 o'clock. So I'm going to give you a heads up right now. This stream went super long. I may be too tired. I may end up doing it tomorrow. I got to kind of get off this, get something to eat. I'll let you know if it's happening tonight, but I think it is. If it's not tonight, it'll happen tomorrow. But if it happens tonight, it'll happen in about 2 hours from now. Hang on a second. Paul James, I got your email. Thank you for that. There was something I wanted to read real quick. Hello, Connor Steinbach. It's good to see you, sir. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm trying to find this thing I wanted to read to you. Fuck. Can't find it. You got the second ending today, Brian. It still leaves me bewildered. Cool. That's nice. Okay, I got one more call. It's Slade. And then what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna close the chat window for me. So if I keep looking at it, I'll keep reading it. And I gotta wrap up. But so all the super chats, thank you. All the comments in general, thank you. I love talking to you guys. All the new members, welcome. Stay tuned to at David Scott Jaffe or the YouTube channel or the Discord. I'll let you know when the next stream is. I'm hoping it's tonight. Now that I'm kind of tired, maybe it's tomorrow. I'll let you know. I'm closing the chat now. Thank you all. Rob the Mod, thank you for modding. I'm going to take the last call. This is good sir Slade. Slade, what's up, man?
Hey, Jaffe.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to ask you, do you see Microsoft keeping the momentum with Game Pass to the point where, well, it'll be too hard for Sony to reach them?
You mean to compete with them?
Yeah, to catch up to them. Because right now they have a huge head start.
You think Microsoft or Sony has a huge head start?
No, Microsoft has a huge
What
head
are they?
start with the Game Pass.
Okay. So I see it going one of two ways. I see either, and I was talking to, maybe it was Ricardo saying this, or I was talking to a journalist the other day about this. I see it going one of two ways. One is that you are either going to have just a very clean, differentiated group of ecosystems in the market. You're going to have Sony that consistently puts out these top of the line, beautiful boutique games like Returnal. And I think Returnal, even though we still don't know if that is the last remnants of Sean Layton's empire or if that's something Jim Ryan wants to keep doing, these kind of expensive but still weird and fresh games. But regardless, Returnal, I think, shuts people up like me for at least a little bit because it's really good and it's really fresh and unique. Well, regardless, though, Sony is going to continue, it seems, to be the place where those games are probably best of the best. You're either going to have that, and then Game Pass is going to be, I've used this analogy, I don't mean to be a dead horse, but they're going to be the McDonald's to Sony's Ruth's Chris, or they're going to be the PC computer to Apple's more elegant, expensive MacBook, right? Or you're going to see the audience go, yes, Sony, we absolutely love your shit. It's best of breed, but it's hard to care about your hardware and your software when you're putting out a banger that is brilliant a couple of times, 3-4 times a year, but every week I turn on Game Pass and it may not be ever as good, but it's always new. It's always good enough. There's some great licenses in there. There's some great games in there. Like I love Second Extinction. I know it's on PC. I don't know if it's ever coming to PlayStation, but when you can turn on the Game Pass and get a game that's fun to play with your friends, play it for a few days, maybe you never come back to it, that's as good of an experience in its own way as playing something groundbreaking like Returnal. So I think either you're going to see the majority of gamers go, yeah, that's really has to be us. I want that more than I want the boutique shit. And in that, Sony will have to decide if they're going to respond or they will become second place or third place behind Switch in this. Or there's going to be enough gamers of both types and some like me that like both to sustain both of those at a very healthy level. That's the only thing I know right now. There's no way to really know which way the wind's going to blow.
But I kind of feel like that the Game Pass subscription services like that are the future because
me too.
PlayStation, Xbox, they know they're not gonna. We know at some point they're not gonna keep releasing consoles.
Right.
Well, eventually they're gonna switch over to to subscription base like that.
Yep.
And if Microsoft works out a deal with Nintendo to have their service on Nintendo, that's going to be a huge boost for them.
Well, I think ultimately what's going to happen when we get to mainstream streaming, and that's still a while away, not like far future away, but it's not this gen where that takes over. I think we are in the we're in the same phase where people were just starting to buy digital games with streaming. That the more people do it, the more people go, hey, that's not bad, but you still have the majority of voices saying this can't be the way we get games. And now it's the main way we get games. But ultimately, all these publishers will have their own service or their own channel that will be pumped in directly to your computer, just like HBO Max, just like Netflix, or into your TV. And then you'll just sort of say, oh, a new Mario's out. Okay, I'll subscribe to Nintendo for this month and play the Mario. Or maybe they'll be like, or you can just buy it, like Stadia has their business model. It'll be one of those two things. But I agree. I mean, consoles are going away, there's no doubt. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, man. Call back anytime. Rob the mod. Let me bring on Rob. Rob, we did it.
Hey, well, you did it. I was just listening.
No, because you were, screening the calls.
Oh yeah, I had to let a few of them slip through, man. There's some funny dudes that came.
Did you have a guy call in that was just really clearly a troll? Like, what did they say?
I can catch them. I can usually catch them within like seconds of talking to them. I know who's serious and who's not.
That's the best. That's the best. Rob, maybe we'll see you tonight on game night, dude.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, hey, if you're planning on doing it tomorrow, it gives me time to download it. So.
Oh, because do you have it on PC or Xbox?
I have it on PC.
Is it crossplay? Can you play crossplay on Second Extinction?
No clue. I have it pulled up right now. It doesn't say anything about crossplay, but it looks awesome.
It's fun. Download it. We'll try it. Okay, so here's what I'll probably do then. I'll do the stream tomorrow, but what I'll do tonight is I'll announce the games in the next 2 or 3 hours, so anybody who wants to play with us can go ahead and download them, and we'll play sometime tomorrow.
It is 9 gigabytes on PC, so it's not much.
No, it's not that. It's not that big. So, all right, Robert, thank you very much. Appreciate it, man.
No problem.
All right, there we go. So, listen, that's it, fellas. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Thank you for watching the stream. I'll be back, obviously, during the week with more Gabbing and Games and videos. There's some interesting news that we're going to be dropping this week. You want to stay tuned for it. It's going to be really cool. I'll have some giveaways because of that and other things, but I can't say anything else. That's all I'm saying. Just watch the skies, people. Beyond that, maybe there's a game night tonight, tomorrow. Stay safe. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the support.